I believe I'm on time, which I was going to say unkindly to myself. That's a first, but it's not actually. I've been getting a little bit better at starting on time. It looks like we got transcodes right at the very start, so I'm happy about that. Unfortunately, I did just reset my computer before going live, so I am going to need a moment to open up Origin and start Mass Effect 3, but I don't think that'll be too taxing. I'm going to do a couple of things for the start. So I'll actually try and... So it looks like my preambles for letting people kind of come into the stream and chat and whatnot are about 10 minutes. And it does present a dilemma for YouTube. So I'd say a safe bet would be 10 minutes in will be when the gameplay, or at the very least codices and whatnot, will start. And I don't know, I'm trying... Like, the thing is that live broadcasts are live broadcasts. I don't want to be completely insensitive to the needs of people who like watching VODs, but I also need to acknowledge that they are two separate things, and the more I pretend that a live broadcast is a VOD, the worse that's going to be. And I don't think it's necessarily going to retain a lot of the features that, or the desirable features that on-demand content has. So my apologies, and I do appreciate those of you who do continue watching, because it is ultimately the reason why I'm putting some more stuff in. So not all of this is going to be Mass Effect related, but I thought I'd share a little bit about what's going on, because it has been... Last month overall was a remarkably hard month, and a lot of the problems are still there. But there are some good things to talk about, and I think there is something to be said for not necessarily ignoring the trouble that you face, but trying to keep an even balance, and more importantly, let the memories be the good as opposed to the bad. So I will confess, of course, my Galactic Readiness rating has plummeted because I sort of forgot to keep going into that app, so I'm going to need to boost that up. But I have a feeling we're probably not going to be getting to the point where, where I'm facing the consequences of having a low rating for that. One thing that came up was I've been meaning to really plumb the depths of my EA Play Pro subscription. I think it was called EA Origin Access Premier when I got it. I am a very big fan of the subscription service. I can't necessarily say it is necessarily better than for everyone than the Microsoft Game Pass offering, particularly, of course, because the base level of the EA Play services is in there. The base level, by the way, I think is one of the best deals in gaming. So if you want the extra Microsoft content on top of that, I think you're doing quite well. I suspect there's probably not going to be the EA Play Pro version that you'll be able to get out of that. I have a feeling that if you want to do things like Jedi Fallen Order or FIFA or some of the big stuff that comes out right at the start, you're probably gonna need to get the separate subscription. Though, to be completely honest with you, I think it's worth it. I've really enjoyed being able to explore more things, and one of the reasons why I think the EA subscription, for the same reason that the Microsoft offering is so good, is it doesn't just have content by that one publisher. Now, EA and, of course, Microsoft are very large and diverse publishers, and so sometimes their catalog's enough, particularly when you consider the fact that EA has a very strong back catalog. So if you like Wing Commander, that's in there. If you like some of the old Star Wars games, even if EA didn't necessarily publish those, they are in the catalog. I think you can play like TIE Fighter, for instance, although, of course, Squadrons is coming out soon, so that's going to be a bit of a treat. But the real shame about it is that because, I have the Pro, and there is a little bit of an edge for me, playing the stuff that I'm paying for, I have focused a lot on the EA material. And that's a shame because there's some really good stuff by third parties. So I play Frostpunk through... I actually happen to own Frostpunk, but I've been playing Frostpunk through that. Incidentally, if you like Frostpunk, I believe you get the complete version with the Microsoft Game Pass. I don't know why there's the difference between the two, But that's one notable difference where the Microsoft one is a bit better. Um, for that game, at least, I don't know if that's a general kind of behavior. But for me, I think what's been really rewarding the last couple of days, I've been going through and trying out some of the third-party stuff. Not everything necessarily hit. So there's this game that I tried called For the King. I think this was free on Epic. Now that I remember it, and it had a lot of stuff that I really liked, and it had a number of things where I thought there were some good ideas. But I tended to find that after a few rounds of combat and a few little cases where the game did something that I didn't really want it to do, in the sense of like I gave it some input and then it took it a different way, it wasn't quite enough for me to like really like I thought I was at the end of the mission, and then they pull, you know how some games like to pull the rug out from under you, and I think kind of what the designer's thinking at the time is like, they won't believe it when I do this. And I'm like, no, I'm actually just kind of annoyed that you did that. So I at that point, I was sort of like, this has probably been one too many points of friction, and I really respect the effort, but I don't think this is for me. And of course, I could afford to do that because it was a subscription service. I've already paid the money, and I can move on to something else. I tried This Is the Police 2. Now, it had a really long cutscene after the first mission, and it was something somebody had recommended when I did a Cultist Simulator stream. So I want to get back to that because it did seem to have some XCOM elements that I rather liked. But that cutscene kind of, I was really in the mood to try stuff, and I was very clearly distracted. I didn't get a whole lot out of it, so I put that aside. I took Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. I haven't tried that yet. I'm not actually one who's really good with sort of the Metroid-style games, but I'll give it a shot. And then, what was another one that I tried? Oh, Mirror's Edge. Now, that's an EA title, so I'm kind of cheating on that. But the idea behind that, I think, is really, really interesting, because I'm not much of a runner. I used to do it when I was in school, and then I had an injury and like got out of the habit and then never returned to it. But just there's something about, and this is something that I think I try. If I can find a game that captures that, it wins my heart. But a game that gives you sort of the perspective of the way someone else sees the world. So I think that game's so interesting because of its idea of sort of representing flow and that state that you get in when you're really into something. I've definitely felt that in other fields, maybe not while running, but I like as soon as I got to those moments, I was like, I totally get what this is, and I like it. So I'm encouraged to go back to that one. I made a stupid mistake and like ruined my run. So it was to just try and like find stuff that was interesting, and that was a really rewarding experience. So I've been trying some new and really good games lately. Another thing, tonight was the start of a new thing I'm doing on YouTube. So those of you who like Cultist Simulator, which used to be the game that I would play on every Wednesday, I have dedicated YouTube VODs. I'm going to do a playthrough. At the moment, there's not going to be any edits inside of the playthrough, but they're 20-minute videos. There's something about the length that I see most YouTube videos kind of meeting with some degree of success for, and they're in a playlist. So the aim here is going to be to try and let people try and do something that's a little bit more built for VOD content, something that I may be not asking people to spend 3 hours watching. And I'm really hoping that gives me an indication about the demand for other things, because I actually have an idea for a few other sorts of series, and I hope people like it, because I think that that's a more sustainable way that I can keep doing Cultist Simulator while still while still trying to have a little diversity in terms of the stream here. So I'm at the 10-minute mark. I actually didn't get through everything that I wanted to say, but let's jump into the game. We'll do some codex entries to start off with. It occurred to me that I actually call them codices, which is the appropriate plural, but it may be that the device that I am reading is the codex, and that it's there is one codex and multiple entries. Why can't I talk to you again now? No. As you were. Yeah, so I mean, it could just be that I have a codex with entries as opposed to each of these is a codex entry. So I've also heard indexes. In fact, I work in a place where indexes come up a lot. It drives me crazy. I swear it's indices. But
the John Grissom Tachanka, the Krogan homeworld, boasts extreme temperatures, virulent diseases, and predatory fauna. Around 1900 BCE, the Krogan discovered atomic weapons and promptly sent their planet into a nuclear winter. The majority of the population retreated to underground bunkers, and Krogan culture slipped into a dark age, dominated by tribal clans. In 80 CE, decades into the Rachni Wars, the Solarian Union made first contact with the primitive Krogan and initiated a cultural uplift to shape them into a modern army capable of confronting the Rachni. During this uplift, the Solarians constructed the Shroud facility on Tachanka to shield the planet from harmful forms of solar radiation. Later, during the Krogan rebellions, reproductive rates were curtailed by the genophage, ensuring the Krogan remained a species in decline and Tachanka a desolate wasteland.
And of course, we took our steps towards curing that last session.
Biotics is the ability. It may be possible to reverse the genophage by extracting an immunity from the genetic data of a cured Krogan female. A Solarian geneticist named Malin, a former student of Dr. Morden Solis, discovered the cure through unethical experimentation on live subjects. The complexity and durability of the genophage derives from biochemical countermeasures that the Solarians wove into the plague in an attempt to make the sterilization incurable. No one is certain of how Malin circumvented the countermeasures, but his work was complete enough to allow replication of his results. In its original form, the cure restored fertility but severely compromised the immune system. This resulted in slow, painful death for all but one of Malin's test subjects. If the beneficial aspects of the cure can be isolated, a specially tailored virus could repair the affected genes in other Krogan.
Big Nate, 7,492nd of his name. How you doing? Great to see you. Excuse me. I always like telling people, nope, I don't take attendance, but it's always nice to see familiar faces, no matter how long the time it's been. I was actually in the opening 10 minutes. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I was debating on, it's occurred to me that one of the pitfalls that I ran into by choosing to do Mass Effect 3, which is obviously a very well-known game that I think other people can do perfectly well without necessarily having to do it the way that I do. So there's a question as to whether or not it's a good fit. But I was curious whether or not people would be interested in small breaks from this, because I think it's going to be a bit of a long run. And I was meaning to try and give people a little bit of a reward at the end of last cast, and it's because I had Steam open that I forgot the game. So there are three things that I've had my eye on. One was this game called High Strategy Urukon, which is a really interesting and small indie strategy game. It's not perfect, but I think it's one that actually is very absorbing when you spend some time on it. And it's one I've been meaning to show on the stream for a while. Oh my goodness, I forgot what the second one was. Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, I think, is probably a fair bout. Although for those who are interested in Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, it's possible that maybe Star Wars Squadrons is one that I would want to be showing off. But the other game that I was thinking about, and one that I think there might be some appetite for, would be more Industries of Titan, because I've been meaning to do that game. There's been some updates for it, which have really added quite a bit. And the thing about that game is that it gets lots of updates, so the saves kind of get invalidated at a fairly reasonable clip. But that's not necessarily bad for streaming. Like, I just sit down, I do my thing, and that's that. So I don't know how you guys would feel about me taking breaks, or if you'd just like to see more Mass Effect. But this would be a good test of that. All right, on to the Reapers. We'll try and do all of the entries.
The Reaper called Harbinger is believed to be the oldest and largest in the Reaper Armada. From the reaches of dark space, Harbinger managed to control the Collectors, a race of human-sized insectoid bipeds, as it sent them on a campaign to kill and gather humans from vulnerable colonies. The Collectors became a terrifying force in the galaxy, responsible for the murder of hundreds of thousands. Surviving colonists have described the tone of Harbinger's threats heard through the Collectors as they attacked as visceral and terrifying. Alliance intelligence has tentatively identified Harbinger as one of the Reapers leading the attack on Earth. A myth common to several cultures in the galaxy, Reapers were once imagined as space monsters that consumed entire stars. Archaeologists who searched for the sources of such myths found little besides the themes of all-consuming devils that are common to primitive cultures. Although accurate information about the Reapers remains scarce, the galaxy now knows that the Reapers are not a myth. They are a real and devastating threat. Sovereign was the first Reaper encountered by the modern Citadel races. Military leaders initially assumed that Sovereign was a Geth or Prothean flagship commanded by Saren Arterius, a rogue Spectre. The truth was far more alarming. The massive ship was itself intelligent, and Saren proved to be under its control. The attacks by Sovereign against Eden Prime and the Citadel removed any uncertainty about the Reaper's technological superiority. Sovereign's formidable shielding and firepower allowed it to hold off the combined fleets of the Citadel, and its mass effect fields proved powerful enough to let the enormous vessel land on a planet's surface. Sovereign's mission, to open a mass relay that would transport the other Reapers from dark space, proved its undoing. During the Battle of the Citadel, Sovereign linked its consciousness to Saren's. When Saren's death corrupted the signal and shut down Sovereign's shields, Sovereign's destruction soon followed. Reaper indoctrination is an insidious means of corrupting organic minds, reprogramming the brain through physical and psychological conditioning using electromagnetic fields, infrasonic and ultrasonic noise, and other subliminal methods. The Reaper's resulting control over the limbic system leaves the victim highly susceptible to its suggestions. Organics undergoing indoctrination may complain of headaches and buzzing or ringing in their ears. As time passes, they have feelings of being watched and hallucinations of ghostly presences. Ultimately, the Reaper gains the ability to use the victim's body to amplify its signals, manifesting as alien voices in the mind. Indoctrination can create perfect deep cover agents. A Reaper's suggestions can manipulate victims into betraying friends, trusting enemies, or viewing the Reaper itself with superstitious awe. Should a Reaper subvert a well-placed political or military leader, the resulting chaos can bring down nations. Long-term physical effects of the manipulation are unsustainable. Higher mental functioning decays, ultimately leaving the victim a gibbering animal. Rapid indoctrination is possible, but causes this decay in days or weeks. Slow, patient indoctrination allows the thrall to last for months or years.
This is a really neat idea, by the way. I mean, like, it's useful for story purposes and whatnot. And I mean, like, it obviously addresses stuff like, well, why don't the Reapers just mind control everyone? But I don't know. There's just really something interesting about this idea. I mean, especially in terms of someone just being used as a tool and thrown away that way, particularly without being known as a, without necessarily knowing it, right? You're completely under the impression that your decisions are still your own and that you've just been given a really private message. I mean, one, this is kind of consistent with actual ways that people have sort of been indoctrinated or manipulated. So there are incidents, let's say, with ambassadors to countries. One of the ways that they are sometimes captured in the sense of doing doing the work of the foreign power as opposed to the country they represent is sort of this withdrawing of sort of privileges or access, and slowly doling it out, for doing the right things, and creating this impression that they're the only ones who really understand their counterparts, and if only the people back home would understand. And what's been happening over this time is just this very slow program of shifting someone's framing towards towards sort of the advantage of the counterparty. And then I think there were some. I mean, this is a little bit. I mean, part of this is in the original Manchurian Candidate. It's a very science fiction version of it, but I think there was also an incident, a case of people who had been captured in the Korean War, and some of the ways that they would, again, they would try and break them. It's not so much this idea of, it's not like Zero Dark 30 where you're seeing someone undergo, to use the euphemism, enhanced interrogation techniques. You don't have someone being tortured to break. What is done instead are a number of very small corruptions in response for what might seem like an outsized reward. So you might have very tough conditions in the prisoner camp, and maybe it's not even like sign a piece of paper, but maybe just agree that maybe the two political systems have they each kind of have their flaws. Maybe there's this small little problem over here. Something very trivial, but maybe not just yourself, but everybody in the cell block gets an extra meal or something like that. And again, it's just this idea of it's almost like a little breadcrumb trail, where all of a sudden, the idea, should I betray my country? Well, clearly, no, never. But if you salami slice it, all of a sudden there's the question in terms of how desperate an action are you really taking here? Is it really so bad that X, Y, and Z? So, in one sense, it's interesting just because of its reflections in terms of what we know about real life. But just also the idea, like the idea of being Saren is a really horrifying one to me, obviously. Because it's a destruction of just about everything, right? I obviously value my mental faculties. I value my ability to think. I definitely value my independent streak. And ultimately, just through this buzzing and through this crazy Reaper technology, my thoughts will no longer be my own, but I will be under a complete. I'll basically be under the complete illusion that doing their bidding is my own idea before I ultimately lose the ability to think altogether. So it's really, that I find one of the most unnerving parts about the Reapers, despite the fact that they are clearly here and ready to harvest the entire galaxy.
The Citadel races have classified the known variants of Reapers into 4 types. Capital ships are Sovereign-class Reapers 2 kilometers in length. They typically target the dreadnoughts, defense installations, and industrial cities of organic civilizations. Experts believe the Reapers harvest a single species of organics during each cycle of extinction to create these massive ships. Some capital ships are capable of launching small drones equivalent to fighters. Destroyers are 160 meters long and, in astounding numbers, make up the bulk of the Reaper fleet. They engage cruisers and other smaller ships, as well as communications posts and enemy command centers. Research suggests destroyers are created from those species that are not harvested to make capital ships. Troop transports carry husks to unconquered planets and bring victims of the harvest to Reaper processing centers. They vary in length from 200 meters to 1 kilometer, but unlike capital ships and destroyers, do not appear to be self-aware. Instead, other Reapers operate troop transports remotely. Processors, also called slaughter ships, are mobile centers for mass DNA harvesting. Like troop transports, processors appear to be remotely operated by sapient Reapers. The Brute is a hulking amalgamation of Turian and Krogan victims of the Reapers. Because tissue from dextroprotein species like the Turians is incompatible with levoprotein species like the Krogan, implants regulate the Brute's body chemistry to combat organ rejection. It is the fusion of Turian military skill and Krogan blood rage that makes the Brute such a formidable enemy, capable of destroying armored vehicles to get to the soldiers inside. Troops are advised to keep their distance and, whenever possible, not engage a Brute alone. Cannibals are frontline Reaper units created from corrupted Batarians. The nickname refers to their propensity to devour the bodies of fallen comrades. This triggers a biochemical process through which the cannibals spontaneously heal themselves and grow new chitinous armor. The transformation also appears to give cannibals a greater awareness of their surroundings, leading to more strategic behavior and careful use of battlefield cover. Husks are the aggressive, mindless foot soldiers of the Reaper armies. They are created by impaling either living or dead humans on mechanical spikes that rapidly extract water and trace minerals and replace them with cybernetics. These cybernetics reanimate the lifeless flesh and tissue, transforming the bodies into horrifying killing machines. The Reapers use large groups of husks to overwhelm the enemy. The husks' inability to feel pain, as well as their tendency to attack in groups, makes them particularly deadly adversaries.
One of the things I actually keep forgetting about the Husks, because they introduce it, but I haven't seen one of them as well. I keep forgetting how horrifying so much of Mass Effect is. As for space opera, this is pretty grim material. It's really good though. I don't know if you really see this sort of stuff in Star. I guess the closest you get is the fight with the image of Darth Vader in Dagobah. I remember that really bugged, like to a point. I was really disturbed seeing it in when I watched The Empire Strikes Back as a kid. It was something that frightened me quite a bit when there's like a scene in Dagobah where Luke goes off to fight Vader and he beheads him, and then the mask blows open and he sees himself. And I mean, it's the sort of stuff that makes Empire a really great film, but as a kid, I really liked the Jabba the Hutt one because it had lots of lasers and fighting, and it was really clear who the good guys and the bad guys were. But obviously, I grew up and began to appreciate it.
Marauders are harvested Turians that command and protect other Reaper troops. The lean, armored creatures present a significant threat in and of themselves, but they are especially dangerous when leading a Reaper task force. Alliance Marines have observed Marauders fortifying husks and cannibals by enveloping them in a ribbon of energy that forms a scabby shell of armor. For this reason, when Alliance soldiers encounter a Marauder alongside husks or cannibals, standing orders are to target the Marauder first. Ravagers are former Rachni that the Reapers have transformed into heavy artillery through a process of implantation and genetic modification. As walking organic turrets, they can sustain and inflict considerable damage. Ravagers bear egg sacs that continuously spawn swarmers. If the sacs are destroyed either during combat or upon the Ravager's death, their entire contents burst forth to charge the enemy and explode on contact. A dead Ravager expels a caustic gas and an acidic puddle. Alliance scientists have theorized that it is easiest for the Reapers to maintain control over units of Rachni genetic extraction because of the species' neurological predisposition for hive mind consensus.
All right. Oops. So we'll leave weapons, armor, and equipment for next stream. I guess they played more on their intermoral Are you talking about? You're talking about the Reapers? So I'm going to do a couple of secondary ones because that means I get to do some reading. But again, it depends on how many entries each of the sections has. Okay, so the Shroud. What the Krogan call the Shroud is a technological remnant of the Solarian Uplift, After Tuchanka's nuclear war released tons of smoke and dust into the atmosphere, the planet temporarily cooled from global dimming, except at the poles where the albedo was lowered by soot. As clouds trapped the resulting heat, enormous swaths of permafrost melted, releasing methane captured by calthrates from previous millennia. This potent greenhouse gas created a runaway heat cycle that was called the nuclear summer. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, like I get what it is, but it's more like to see that, like, the imagery is very potent, like it's really well done in that, but like watching it as a kid where Star Wars is like spaceships and fighting and whatnot, to kind of see this beheaded Luke staring back at him, it's like, that's pretty wild. So like, again, it's really well done. Like, it's one of the reasons why The Empire Strikes Back is a very good movie, and why it's probably, rightly considered the best one. Again, I don't know what individual tastes are, and I've not seen the new trilogy. But again, like, my reaction to it was pretty strong, just because like it was so jarring. I mean, then he also gets his hand chopped off later. I was less bothered by that, apparently. But anyways, without intervention, Tuchanka would have sunk into a slow but certain mass extinction. The Solarian solution was to assemble the Shroud, a permanent sun shield of trillions of tiny diffractory lenses placed at the L1 Lagrange point, the point in space where the lens's naturally stable orbit would shade the planet. The Solarians settled on a delivery method that became known as the Shroud Towers. The towers were essentially enormous coil guns that could fire a payload of lenses into space, along with the equipment necessary to monitor the payload's trajectories. Many Krogan warlords enthusiastically approved of the plan, some because they believed in saving their homeworld, but most because they saw future military applications for the Shroud Towers. The Shroud was completed on schedule over the next few decades, by which time the Rachni held the warlords' full attention. The Krogan rebellions were not kind to the Shroud Towers, but all but one was destroyed during the push for Krogan demilitarization. The remaining tower, often referred to as the Shroud, even though that is technically incorrect, was repurposed for cloud seeding and atmospheric repair. It remains on the landscape as an anachronism, a symbol of a time when the Krogan and Solarians helped themselves by aiding one another. All right, the Reaper War. The fall of Earth. The Reapers took Earth in a matter of hours. The Alliance knew the first wave would arrive from Batarian space, but they were unprepared for the speed and scale of the attack. The Reapers bypassed the 6th and 7th fleets at Terra Nova and Eden Prime, flying straight from relay to relay where they could neither be tracked nor intercepted. The tactic was unexpected, since the navies of organic species would never risk coming out of FTL within combat range or leaving enemies at their backs to threaten the supply lines. At Arcturus Station, more than a dozen Reaper capital ships engaged the Alliance 2nd, 3rd, and 5th fleets. This was mere screening for the main force. Dozens more capital ships continued through the Charon Relay, where the 1st Fleet had been lying in wait, but was soon destroyed. The 4th Fleet, near Earth, had a few minutes of advance warning. It stood no better chance. After destroying Earth's convoys, smaller Reaper destroyers wiped out all GPS and communication satellites in Earth's orbit and cut the undersea fiber optic cables that linked the continents. Earth's resistance now relies on outdated radio towers and few quantum entanglement communicators whose match pairs happen to be on other continents or outside the Sol system. Communication is so limited that the fate of entire nations remains unknown. The capital ships bombarded defense installations and industrial centers, annihilating entire cities with populations in the low millions, including Adelaide, Hamburg, Jubail, and Fort Worth. Meanwhile, Reaper destroyers descended into the atmosphere to melt roads and capture population centers with minimal loss of life. This is not an example of the Reapers being merciful. More likely, they are hurting their prey to make the coming harvest that much easier. The Fall of Karshan. For every 1,000 Batarian refugees, there are 1,001 stories about how the Reapers invaded the Batarian systems. A few elements are common to almost every version, however. The Reapers arrived in the first Vular system and immediately destroyed its communications network. The Hegemony's Department of Information Control blamed the loss of signal on space weather, but scrambled ships to the system nonetheless. Within a day, Reaper capital ships appeared in the Harsa system and descended on the Batarian homeworld Karshan. For all the rhetoric about the hegemony's military prowess, the response to the Reapers was uncoordinated. Moments after the information minister took the extranet and took to the extranet and announced that unknown ships were destroying all space traffic near Karshan, the defense minister declared that there was no reason to panic. The planet's convoys were destroyed next, creating an ominous silence that has persisted ever since. Fearing that they were next, Batarian colonies across hegemony space began evacuations. So many refugees poured into the human-occupied Exodus cluster that Systems Alliance officials at first thought the Batarian... So many refugees poured into the human-occupied Exodus cluster that Systems Alliance officials at first thought the Batarians were invading. More systems have gone dark as their convoys were destroyed, and millions more Batarians trapped on their planets sit waiting for the Reapers. You know, one thing I will say, like a lot of the... I'm trying to remember when this game came out. I'm pretty sure the wave of migration that we had seen to Europe from the Middle East hadn't occurred yet, but obviously this takes on a certain significance once once you sort of hear all these different kinds of stories or read the fictional stories in here. It's interesting to just see how the mapping seems to work, even though this I think predates a lot of that. When Tetris fell, the Turians knew little about the Reap. Well, I mean, it's not like it's the first time that there've been refugees, but again, it's just so interesting. It's anachronistic, but it's immediately the first thing that I think of when I hear some of this. When Tetris fell, the Turians knew little about the Reapers except that they wanted to enrage the Turians. Staying calm, the Turians massed in force around Palaven, their homeworld. Fleet Admiral Erix Coronati, in what became known as the 15-minute plan, stationed only 2 carriers, undaunted and resolute, near the system's relay. When the Reaper fleet emerged, the carriers launched swarms of unmanned fighters and spy drones. These were quickly destroyed, but the drones transmitted vital data on the Reaper's effective range, fleet composition, and exact location. The Turians' other ships then deployed to defend the system in earnest. Knowing that the Reaper's weapons had a longer effective range than any of his own, Coronati made a short, daring FTL jump, landing his dreadnought in the middle of the Reaper fleet. The dreadnoughts then turned to line up their main guns on the Reapers, which also needed to turn to fire on the Turians. This ploy used the Reaper size against them because they could turn faster. Used the Reaper size against them. Because they could turn faster, the Turian dreadnoughts locked targets first, and their concentrated firepower downed several Reaper capital ships. The Reapers countered instantly. Their destroyers performed a jump of their own to the skies above Palaven, beginning orbital strikes on Turian cities. The Turians, forced to defend the planet, found themselves in a pitched battle far from the relay, from which emerged a seemingly endless line of Reaper ships. After massive casualties, Coronati ordered retreat. The Turians insist that Palaven is not lost. The battle has merely moved to the ground. Reaper troop transports have dumped hordes of husks to capture Palaven's inhabitants, but met with little success. Reaper capital ships are destroying city after city, but much of the Turian fleet is still operable, and the citizenry is heavily armed. The Turians refuse to be intimidated. Again, this is another touch that I like, because you have these different stories. You learn a little bit about this. This is actually the sort of stuff that I like a bit more than what you'll get an entry in terms of, what the Asari are, what the Solarians are, what the Turians are, to learn about who they are through their responses. So we've always heard about Turian military prowess. We get to operate with a Turian, but the Turian is always going to be sort of under orders with us. They're a companion, and we sort of control them. So in this case, you get to see, the start of this game, you get to see the invasion of Earth, and you get to see how helpless we are against this force. And then you get to hear about how the Turians handled it, how it's a really smart approach. They gain as much information as they can. Based on that information, they're able to use, make a split decision and sort of perform better. They're still on the back foot, but it's one that sort of communicates why the Turians have this reputation that they do. Not that I mean to denigrate my own species. The Reapers, Reaper capabilities. The Reapers are technologically superior to the organic species of the galaxy, but the degree of that superiority is a matter of debate in the intelligence community. The Reapers' thrusters and FTL drives appear to propel them at more than twice the speed of Citadel ships. Estimates of their location in dark space suggest that they can travel nearly 30 light years in a 24-hour period. Reaper power sources seem to violate known physical laws. Reapers usually destroy fuel infrastructure rather than attempting to capture it intact, indicating that Reapers do not require organic species energy supplies. Consequently, the Reapers attack without regard for maintaining supply lines behind them, except to move husks from one planet to another. Unlike Citadel ships, Reapers do not appear to discharge static buildup from their drive cores, although they sometimes appear wreathed in static discharge when they land on planets. The main gun on a Reaper capital ship dwarfs that of Alliance's Everest-class dreadnoughts. No dreadnought has yet survived a direct hit from the weapon. Estimates put its destructive power anywhere between 132 to 454 kilotons of TNT. Even if the target is hardened, as in the case of a surface-based missile silo, the gun can instead bury the target beneath molten metal. Precise targeting computers and correctors also give Reaper weapons a longer effective range than the Organics dreadnoughts or cruisers. The kinetic barriers on a Reaper capital ship can shrug off the firepower of a small fleet. Weapons specifically designed to overcome shields, such as the Javelin, Guardian lasers, or the Thanic series, can bypass the barriers to some degree. The difficulty is getting close enough to use them. The surface-mounted weaponry on Reaper ships, similar in principle to Guardian, presents an effective defense against the organic species fighters. So, I think we'll probably leave it for the next stream, but...
Cerberus is attacking civilians on Benning. We've been asked to help evacuate the planet.
All right. I think one of the things I'm going to wind up doing is it'll probably be next stream, but we can do the weapons and tech, and then really the rest of the codex entries are as we pick them up. So that's great. Thank you for saying that, Big Nate. I'm sorry that you didn't get a chance to see any gameplay, but it's a pleasure having you around. I hope we get a chance to see you next time.
You know, my lab studied the Rachni. Long-distance communication with no time lag, the ability to control workers, and at close range, the Queen can even speak through dead or dying members of other species.
Glad they're on our side.
If we can develop instant long-range communication without quantum entanglement, maybe when this war is over.
Okay. I'm going to take a minute here and just see if there's any other dialogue. It looks like the game's pretty good at not locking me into dialogue trees when there isn't anything new to say. Not for everyone, but
once the Krogan are gone, we'll get rid of the smell.
While this body has all factory sensors, I do not have positive or negative associations with any specific scent.
Oh, well, lucky you.
by the way, if the thanks, Big Nate. Before you go, how's the game to voice volume? I get the sense that the game's a little quiet, and I can boost it a little bit more. But it's definitely a challenge with Mass Effect 3. It feels like a very quiet game.
How's Grunt? Our little tank baby's all grown up, huh?
Apparently he'll be on his feet and killing again in no time.
Well, you learn from the best, Commander. Every time he incinerates someone with a shotgun and does that little laugh, he'll think of you. Edie says it was Rachni down there?
Yeah.
I thought they were on our side after you saved the Queen on Novaria.
It wasn't her fault. She got captured. She's with us now.
Until the next time the Reapers sing a sour yellow note of whatever.
I don't necessarily mind lower than the voice, but I'm getting the impression that that's probably a little too quiet. So thanks, Olaf. I'll bump this up and see. If it's too loud, I can always see it later. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Shepard, I had a question about human behavior. Why is it you never have questions about Asari behavior or Turian behavior? I tried asking Liara questions about the Asari bonding process. She said I do not guard the secrets of the Normandy's crew carefully enough for her to entrust me with such private information. The Asari word
Thanks,
she
Olaf.
used
I'll
translates as
fix it.
blabbermouth. I think she has become a more private person since becoming the Shadow Broker. She's the what? Oops. Perhaps you two should talk.
All right. So I've put it to the max level, and I'm just going to double check that nothing changed in the background while I... Yeah, so the only other thing I can really do at this point would be to lower my own volume. But let's hope that maybe the NPCs can help out a little bit. I really appreciate that, Olaf. I know you like lurking. I need to interact with you less, but I like having you around. So thank you for being a good sport about it. Just need to find someone to talk with so I can get a level on the max
Wasn't
volume.
the first time we've faced Rachni.
Really? You've seen them before?
A few years back, on Novaria, Saren and his minions were trying to extract information from the Rachni Queen.
You saw the Queen?
Hell, we spoke to her.
You spoke? I can't imagine that. The things you've done, sir, they're amazing.
Well, it didn't seem that way at the time. Mostly, you're just clawing your way out of one mess and into another, hoping your ass comes along for the ride.
It's good to hear. It's a little bit quieter than what I would normally want, but as long as it's an improvement. I mean, I can lower my voice so that everybody can like boost the volume on theirs, but I know people tend to watch with another one, with like another stream open, so that there's a limit in terms of like closing the gap. But yeah, no problem, Olaf. I was, yeah, I'm always happy to hear from you, even if it's a lurk or a host. It's always nice to see a friendly face.
Just one word, Shepard. Grunt. There'll be a lot more dead Reapers now.
I just checked there. What am I doing?
Stop beating yourself up. It was crazy of me to ask you to join the Normandy back then.
But I let you down. I let Shepard down. I let everyone listed on that memorial wall down. You had the courage to support Shepard. Joker did. Garrus and Tali did.
But Ashley didn't. Liara didn't. Were they cowards? I think not. Greg, you're one of the bravest and most loyal men I know. You were meant to be here, right now. We have a war to win. So clear your head and focus.
Okay, you win. It will not be mentioned again.
Okay, so what I'll do, I will very, very lightly lower the mic voice. That's about as, I think that's about as far as I'm willing to take it down. I don't know if that was a noticeable change or not, but what it'll hopefully do is reduce the gap between the two. But yeah, I think probably the volume thing has been one of the reasons why I've been doubting my decision to do Mass Effect 3. But that's a poor excuse, so I'll try and do my best. But what's been weird about it is that each time I stream it, it's like I've never until now adjusted my personal microphone settings. And so it feels like each time I do Mass Effect, there's like a new batch of settings that I need.
Perhaps stimulate cell regeneration with a... Could. But should test with...
That's worse.
PC? So I everything for me is PC, so I don't even think of this as like being a console game, but of course it was on consoles.
Something else.
Oh, Origin. Is it even on Steam? Okay, yeah, we've already done those.
Thanks for talking to me.
It's my pleasure, Commander.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because the EA catalog came
Shepard, Eve ready for travel to Tuchanka.
Nice talking with you, Morden.
We'll be here if you need me. Continuing to study Shroud in meantime.
It's actually kind of funny. I mean, obviously, I wind up being the EA apologist on the stream, but one of the things I found so funny was a few people talking about how...
Have we found any new engineers for the Crucible, Glyph?
5 ex-Sonax Industries scientists who attempted to reverse engineer Prothean technology stolen from planet Garvuk. They are technically still wanted by the Council for hiding Prothean technology. As well, Sonax's part in instigating an illegal war on Garvuk.
I'm sure the Council will forgive that for helping with the Crucible. Extend those scientists amnesty and an invitation.
Right away.
Some people said it's like, oh, EA blinked and they removed their exclusives. I'm like, well, you can take a look at what EA's been doing. They've been putting play on a number of different platforms. So they've got EA games on the Epic Store. EA games came to the Humble Store. And more importantly, from the time when when EA made Origin kind of the only place that you could get the big EA releases, the revenue share on Steam was a flat 30%. That's not true anymore. If you hit certain revenue thresholds, the share starts going lower. Now, this didn't do anything at all for indies. Indies were really mad about that. But in response to, I think, a lot of developers starting to, like big publishers, maybe publishers is the better way to say it. I think in response to some of those moves, they did start giving up a little bit of the revenue share for the largest games. And so in the end, EA left and returned to not just more favorable revenue shares, but also became the first subscription service available on Steam. And in the end, it reflects a strategy that they had been employing on consoles for a really long time. So I think it was actually I thought it was a very canny move. In the end, the circumstances under which they built the Origin platform changed, and I think both sort of kind of coexist. And again, like the idea, much like Microsoft, is essentially about playing games where you want them. If you really want to play an EA game on Steam, you can get it on Steam. If you really want to play it on the Epic Store, you can get it on the Epic Store. I personally get a lot of benefit out of EA Play, and so it makes or EA Play Pro, and so for me it makes sense to play it on Origin. I actually don't have a problem at all with the storefront. But I mean, again, you can get a lot of mileage on YouTube by saying that EA is a bad company. So I get that pretty much anything they do, there's always going to be someone saying that it's a failure for EA and a success for whatever, usually CD Projekt Red. Okay. Sure. It doesn't seem to... Oh, here we go. Power damage bonus or cooldown. I've actually had a couple of moments where I've wanted to use some... I will do cooldown this time. I normally just go for straight power, but I have had a couple of times where I've felt I could have used the ability at the time. Looks like the monitors are back to being kind of funny. Email from Dr. Locke to Admiral Hackett. Security almost opened fire on the Rachni when their ships pulled up to the Crucible, Admiral. I had to invoke your name more than once before they were let on board. They're following instructions, but my god, do I have to tell you how nervous everyone on the project is to see Rachni strutting down the halls? They almost gave Professor Lau a fit. I'll let you know how our next staff meeting goes, Dr. Locke. Audio log, Grunt addresses the new Arlat company recruits. Still don't understand why they put a tank-grown freak in charge of the whole company. And I don't understand why they gave me a bunch of whining pie-jocks for soldiers. I've got more years on the battlefield than you have kills, Runt. Trying to mate with Solarian females does not count as fighting. No one talks to... Someone help him up. We move in an hour.
Busy? I have time if you'd like to talk. In fact, I could use the distraction.
What's on your mind?
How long it took the Reapers to eradicate the Protheans, and how long they'll need for us. It took them centuries to conquer the Protheans. We're not quite so widespread, but it would still take at least 100 years. It's selfish, but I keep thinking that if we fail... I'm only 109, Shepard. I could live to see the entire cycle come to an end.
Only 109, huh?
I know. It must seem strange to complain about a 1,000-year lifespan. I used to think it was sad that most aliens live such short lives. Maybe it's not such a privilege to outlive so many. To witness so much death.
Don't drive yourself crazy about this, Liara. We're still in the fight.
Only because you're still driving it forward. We finally have other leaders on our side, but none will take us as far as you can. Sometimes I wonder how you do it.
I think of the people I care about. That helps keep me going.
I'm glad I'm among them. I hope.
Of course you are.
I feel better already. Thank you for coming by, Shepard. Why don't we talk later?
Quick chat.
Greetings, Commander.
All right. So we'll take a minute. It does look like there's extra dialogue options, so we'll head down to engineering and shuttle bay, and then we will move on to whatever minor mission.
Commander, I understand you faced Rachni on your mission.
You know about them?
In our cycle, we use them as weapons. Biological proxies. It was before I was born, but every Prothean had heard the stories. When we knew of them, the Rachni spent their lives singing thoughts to each other. But our scientists were more interested in their biology. The Rachni were well suited to harsh conditions. So we bred them for violence, selecting the most cunning and warlike of the queens. Then we unleashed them upon our enemies. For a time, it worked, until they became too cunning and warlike and turned on us. We put them down before they could develop any further. We thought they had been exterminated. Yet it seems our experiment evolved into this cycle's nemesis.
Yeah, I'm actually mildly intrigued. So I know they talk about sort of seeding the next cycle with the next I don't know, like the new generation or whatever, but it's a little weird to see the Rachni surviving. Maybe I just don't quite understand how the cycles work. I also find it a little odd that, like, so there's a couple of characters who do this who, like, they're super, they're so concentrated in what they're doing, they just look over their shoulder when talking to you. But it's not like Javik, like, it's very clear that Javik is not paying attention to the thing he's working on. He's also not doing a very good job of communicating with me, so it just kind of comes off as, like, really disrespectful. But I'm not an animator. That was the other thing I was talking about playing some games, but I decided to try and do something new. So the camera is obviously a really big sore spot right now. But I have been trying to do a little bit more in terms of creative expression. One of the things that I think really got me was starting to mess around more with photo modes in games and how.
What to think about that little mech dog roaming the ship?
You mean Sophie? I think she's cute.
What purpose does she serve?
I guess I have a soft spot for worthless dogs. Look how long I've been with you.
I think it's probably the time I was spending in the photo modes and whatnot. But I decided to try a little bit with Blender, because it's one thing for me to say, I've never been very good at generating images. It's usually been more recording what's already there. But that's not going to change if I don't practice. So I've actually been pleasantly surprised at how quickly you can get up to speed with a program like Blender. I wouldn't necessarily say anything that I'm making is good, but it's given me a little bit of an appreciation in terms of what what goes into the creation of this sort of stuff.
Those FBA couplings you got us are still holding up.
Commander?
Good talk. All right, blast hard cheese. What do you got to say?
Of all the things that... It's like you got the opposite of a horseshoe up your ass.
Good talk. All right, so I got to figure out who I got. I see that coffee on the loading screen, and I'm like, I really want one. I've got some tea in front of me. All right, so let's take a look at what... So, again, I'm trying to avoid the priority missions. Genophage cure is a success, but it must be synthesized and dispersed across all of Tuchanka using the Shroud Tower. Land on Tuchanka to get Eve safely to the tower. Got a Cerberus attack. We've got Cerberus abductions. So Benning, I think Benning just makes sense on its own. So it did occur to me that I should actually be checking out certain planets, because I'm definitely not going to remember all of the places where there's like something for me to check out. Oh. I didn't realize there'd be Reapers waiting to cause me grief. Wow, it's all in I don't really want to check this, but I kind of wonder whether or not it says where is Cerberus abduction? Cerberus is attacking civilians on Benning, land on Benning, and provide protection while civilians are evacuated. But it doesn't seem like it says the system. So I don't normally like consulting external source. I mean, it's kind of fun to experience the game as it was, but I'm just going to take a quick minute here and see if there's a Mass Effect wiki that says. Are you kidding me? The Arcturus stream. This system. So the reason I'm doing this right now, so the reason why I don't, like, it's not a religious thing to say I don't want to consult external sources. Like, it's basically the reason why I, oh, hey, it does say, okay, so this is what I was looking for, basically. One of the reasons why backseating is something that bugs me is that I know as well as anybody else where to find information about games if I want them. I sometimes get that people want to be helpful, and so I like giving people a chance to, like, when I think, you know, it's something that chat would like to participate in, I obviously opt in. But the reason why I don't mind checking out wiki stuff for that is imagine how much time I've been saved knowing now that if I have a mission, I just need to mouse over it. If it was, figure out where Benning is, good luck, that would be pretty tedious and awful. But what it seems to be is that the priority missions are always going to be highlighted on the map. I might need to double check that. But it seems like if there is a side mission, as long as I mouse over it, it will tell me. And that is going to save me a lot of trial and error. It's less obvious that that's... well, the cinematics at least have the right volume.
Signal confirmed.
Arcturus station lying in the L5 Lagrangian point. Of Themis are fused metal fragments of Arcturus station destroyed by the Reaper capital ships. The station once housed the system's alliance parliament and the nerve center of their military armada. Now it is a cold grave for 45,000 people. Okay, apparently there are assets in the system. I'm gonna guess probably a fuel depot somewhere. found it.
Evasion successful.
That's telling.
I found something.
Yeah. That's really interesting. So apparently you can find out the location of something without scanning it. The wreckage of a fuel depot destroyed by enemy forces. Fuel can be salvaged from the debris. Recovered 100 units of fuel. And there's nothing else for us to check, although I'm going to take a minute here. I won't. So I used to read the descriptions for every planet, but I just think the amount of time that will take as just a proportion of overall stream time is a little too much to ask. But I do want an idea. I don't think there's any penalty for me scanning. I just kind of wanted an idea. I'm still trying to figure out some of those little side missions. I just kind of want to get an idea in terms of what I'm potentially giving up by not investigating everything. All right, Benning, the nearest garden world to Arcturus Station, is the primary source of its food supply and an important staging area for starship maintenance and repair. Occupying the planet would be key in any attempt to retake the system's relay. Scattered intelligence indicates that during the battles of Arcturus and Earth, the Reapers sent a small force to Benning to destroy its convoys, spaceports, and starships. With the population immobilized and communications cut, the main force concentrated on the larger prize, knowing that they could return before repairs would have to be made or help could arrive. Heat sources in Benning's space indicate a non-Reaper presence here. Colony founded 2153, population 2.25 million, population estimate pre-invasion, capital Jogan? Orbital distance 1.1 AU, orbital period 0.9 Earth years, radius 9,362 kilometers, atmospheric pressure 1.13 Earth atmospheres, surface temperature 63 Celsius, and surface gravity 1.14 G. Alright, I've definitely liked having Liara around. I'm going to try bringing Edie again. Again, I'm trying to find the right compliments. James is not terrible, but he didn't immediately recommend himself for, like, I have to have this guy in my group each time. I should probably be trying Garrus, because I know, like I say, he's got this the sniper rifle, and I don't really need that, but I don't know, maybe I should be trying more often. Berserk hack synthetics, fighting on your side, move faster and do 100% more damage, or increase all tech power damage done to target by 100% for 10 seconds. So I have started to tend to shoot the possessed mechanics more often, but a damage boost, I think I'm going to do Berserk. That seems too good to pass up. It's tricky. Extra ammo is nice, but I think I'm going to do fitness just because it's a passive bonus. Oh, you know what?
Cerberus strike squads have infiltrated one of the major cities on Benning. Initial reports indicated they were recruiting civilians, but further investigation suggested that people are being taken against their will.
For what purpose?
Unknown. We sent a recon team to investigate, and the Cerberus squads reacted by targeting civilians and public facilities. Officially, Cerberus is denying responsibility and condemning the action. They're either lying, or we're dealing with a rogue faction.
And innocents are caught in their crosshairs.
Exactly. Secure the area so we can establish a rescue lifeline to the rest of the city.
Approaching the drop point, Commander.
Copy that, Lieutenant.
The people down there are counting on you, Commander. Hack it out.
Building an avalanche of civilian SOS requests, Commander. The bulk are concentrated on the upper street. Cerberus forces are pinning them down. You better hurry.
I'm sure they'll wait for me. But yeah, I forgot to set up Liara and Edie with their abilities, so I'll change my ammo. I'll go into squad and incapacitate weaker organic enemies for a short duration or recharge speed. I think incapacitate's nice to have. What about you, Liara? we will leave you for your 1 point. Comlog, Svetlana Alexandrov. They have us surrounded. Private security from the depot tried to help, but they got slaughtered. Someone has to know. Someone has. I can't quite make it. Obviously, I need to get the loot before I even consider helping. Let the shield recharge. Looks like I lost Liara for that. I'm sure she'll get up as soon as the combat's over.
What is it, Lieutenant?
I'm tracking civilians fleeing the city with Cerberus troops right behind.
Where are they?
Updating your nav point. You can intercept them there.
We must hurry.
But what's the consequence if I don't hurry? So this is actually one of the cases where my behavior as Shepard, as a character, are, you know, very much at odds with the priorities of the game. So I actually really like the fact that so much of the story and so many of the details are revealed through exploring the environments. Again, they've created a big, interesting world for people to explore. And you're sort of rewarded by engaging with it. You really do not want to be killing civilians. But what it does translate into is you'll have these, you know, oh look, you know, look out, the civilians are being massacred, and you'll see someone die right in front of you, but you're like, oh wait, but there's a room that I haven't checked out yet, and it might be carrying something vital that will give me a bonus later on in the game. So sorry guys, you're just gonna have to be patient. I'm not 100% sure how you fix that, because in the end it's you know, it's a feature I like about this game, that I'm sort of rewarded for engaging with it and exploring things. But it.
Look, reinforcements are here.
Try to stay calm.
What should we do?
Just stay down.
Commander, more Cerberus troops are heading your way. If you can hold the line there, it'll give the civilians time to escape.
Tony, reading this. Don't trust Cerberus. They're taking people against their will. Just run. Whatever you do, don't look back. Run.
You heard him. We hold here.
I don't want to die.
Oh. So it might be that there is a consequence for losing the civilians. I kind of thought I took him out. It's my bad. I did also get a bonus for headshots, so I should be focusing on more of those if I can. And it seems like a pretty meaningful... Oh, crap. At least they're not targeting the civilians. I should be a little more thoughtful about what I'm... Okay, so you can't use that through obstacles. I don't know why I expected any different. It's just disappointing. I also have no idea if it's possible to lose the civilians here. I'm hoping it's not, because I'm obviously not being too careful with their health. I think I'm gonna have to use a heal. Not again. Ah, I deserve that. So yeah, I'm trying to figure...
Try to stay calm. What should we do? Just stay down.
I don't know if I'm supposed to be charging forward on this.
You heard him. We hold here.
Okay, this is off to a good start. Doing worse than last time. I was kind of hoping that this would give me some time to regen shields, but looks like it doesn't. Judge Viper GT, thank you very much. Good luck in trying to defend the galaxy. Thank you very much for your continued support. That is 9 months. I feel like it's been longer. So apologies if Twitch is shorting you on your tour of duty, your service. It's always good to see you. I hope you've been well. I haven't had too many cases where I've died during missions, but I do behave in a really reckless way. So every once in a while, the game reminds me that I'm not allowed to pretend that it's on easy. Oh, crap. Yeah, so the bad guys are faster than me at melee attacks. I don't actually know why they're a situation in which I'd want to use them. I'm pretty sure I've already checked this place out for stuff. So I'll pick up whatever ammo I can and try and... See, the thing that's funny for me about this one, I think one of the reasons why I find this mission a little weird, it seems to be that you just face endless waves if you stay put. So my thinking now is that you don't... Come on. But yeah, so it feels like you sort of face endless hordes of enemies if you stay put, which, you know, that's kind of what I get when they say defend civilians. Escort civilians is obviously a different activity, and it's a little less obvious to me where I need to go right now, so come on. Apparently I didn't do any damage to that guy. Anyways, I've used a lot of metagel, so... That was Liara. There's a turret somewhere. I don't even know who's generating them. Oh, that was short. What? Okay. I did not realize... I mean, I must have missed it. Don't remember what number you're at.
Try to stay calm.
Whatever number you're at, I'm happy. Happy you're still around. Obviously, for the last couple of streams, the concurrent views have been down a bit. And again, Mass Effect isn't necessarily the key to success on Twitch. At least from Mass Effect 2, people seem to indicate that they really wanted to see the conclusion of the trilogy, so I'm happy to do that. I suppose the best I can say is it's a nice little verification that I'm not completely alienating the people who like to watch my stuff by... Oh, come on. Oh, that's interesting. So that doesn't take metagel if you do that. Thought that would have been a headshot, but... So this makes me think that maybe the semi-auto is the appropriate choice. What? That had to have been a headshot. It's making me kind of want to reconsider the choice of going for the heavier sniper rifle, for the simple reason that I accepted the lower fire rate on the assumption that basically it was like the AWP in the old Counter-Strike. It's like you basically, unless you hit someone in their little toe, you're pretty sure to have them not be a problem anymore. But it looks like if I graze the enemy, it's still they're still up. But then I have to deal with like the long reload and all of that. So obviously not something to be changed in the middle of this combat, though. So yeah, I mean, this is a real conundrum here. So I'm hearing stuff like, let's go when we can. It does seem to be that there are certain conditions that will cause the civilians to move around. But it's the instruction to defend the civilian is very vague. One thing I could be doing to make my life a little easier too is to tell Liara and Edie to be closer to my position. Yeah, let's see where the civilians are, and let's see if the game gives me any indication about where. This is where we've lost both times. It's not so clear to me that this is where I need to be. Okay, well.
No hostiles detected in the immediate area, Commander. Reinforcements are moving in to secure the evac route.
Good work, everyone.
I'll pick you up at the LZ, Commander.
That's it? Huh. I'm not really sure how to feel about this mission. Sorry, I don't want to turn it into a bunch of complaints about Mass Effect, but this was a bit of an odd one. Oh, unrelated to Mass Effect, for those of you who like participating in chat or have opinions about this, has anybody been checking out Amnesia Rebirth? And have any opinions on that? I kind of found out about it because I don't actually think I read this. Nemo, if you can read this, stay away from the taxi stand. That place is crawling with Cerberus soldiers. Ellie. So I know I opened it, but I didn't actually read it last time. Okay, don't think there's anything else for me here. I'm intrigued. It's interesting that after Soma, they're going back to the Amnesia well.
We're getting reports of continuing strikes against other cities on Benning.
Cerberus still denying responsibility?
Yes, and for once we're inclined to believe them gunning down innocent humans isn't their usual MO. Either way, the civilians down there have a chance now. We're solidifying a foothold and getting people out, then we'll move to liberating the rest of the planet.
I hope we can say the same for Earth.
One day, Commander. For now, we've got our work cut out for us. Carry on.
There's an interesting implication with a rogue Cerberus element killing civilians. The idea that it suggests that the knowledge of the Reapers harvesting has at least hit that faction. And so, you know, this could be sort of a perverse way of them trying to combat. They sort of see the inevitability of what's about to happen, and so they want to weaken them. I don't know if that's the motivation, but I don't know. It's an idea I thought of. So this number will go up over time, but for now I'm going to have to deal with the fact that I've been neglecting the mobile game. Arcturus 1st Division. The Arcturus 1st Division is a volunteer army of civilians, paramilitary forces, and reserve soldiers who have banded together to stop the Reaper occupation on the planet Benning. To avoid detection by Reaper forces, its members operate in cells, never staying in one place for long. A handful of Alliance soldiers are coordinating the 1st Division, sharing intel and sending supplies to the Resistance soldiers. A few Alliance squadrons have been spared to support Benning's makeshift army with trained soldiers. Okay. I'm sure there's some stuff here that I didn't properly read because of it being between two casts, but I gotta, I'll live with what I've been given.
Yes, Commander?
That's all.
Of course, Commander.
If it's dialogue options that I've already had before, I'm going to assume they don't have anything new to say about it.
Need something, Shepard?
What will you do after the genophage is cured?
Once we deal with the Reapers, most Krogan will want to settle a score with the Turians and Solarians. I won't let them. That isn't our path forward. This time will be different.
Okay.
That's it for now, Rex. Let's get back to work.
Anytime.
I know we've heard that before, so...
So, Reapers don't have colonies. You can't bomb them, or you're bombing what's left of your own planet. They make their own soldiers out of our civilians. They don't have supply lines. How do you beat something like that?
With me!
You know, if I think of something.
Commander, Chief Engineer Adams would like to speak with you down in engineering. Look at that galaxy map. Do you know how many strategy games are built from that interface?
You play strategy games?
A few. Most are too flashy, though. I prefer chess. I have a set made from rose quartz and hematite back home. I like the feel of something solid in my hands.
Well, now that I know your weakness, we might have to try a game.
It'd be more fun than playing Edie. Edie doesn't sweat.
You sweat playing chess?
Depends on how much fun we're having.
The Turians will hold. Pound for pound, they're the best fighting force in the galaxy.
Pound for pound is irrelevant, given the significantly higher mass of Reaper forces overall.
That's why we're bringing in the Krogan. Commander.
Happy to see you too, Joker.
How's the ship running, Edie? I am updating the cyber warfare suite around our Reaper IFF. It should resemble Reaper code exactly.
I'm trying to think about those other side missions on the Citadel. Realistically, how many of them I can do. I mean, again, it's the sort of thing I can consult
Commander,
the
there's
web
a new
for.
message at your private terminal.
I think I'll wait for the... other details. I don't want to spend too much time on crew deck and whatnot, but I just want to see how many things change. If it winds up being sort of the same... So yeah, like Garrus isn't here anymore. So I'm just trying to pick up on the indicators that there might be something else going on. The game does obviously tell me, hey, so-and-so is wants to talk to you.
Commander.
But I'm not clear if there's other little tidbits that I'm missing out on.
Doctor, I'd like to hear the song.
Again? Trying to calculate amino acid decay rates.
You said you would once the tests were done.
Oh, better to die to a thresher maw with shotgun blasting roaring rather than to play ambassadorial games with the blood of Shiagar in her veins. Off to fights in Sturian's cant with diplomats instead of a crant, but she'll be true to Tuchanka's dream and live and die a Krogan queen. For she is the Krogan queen, hurrah, hurrah for the Krogan queen, and it is a glorious thing to be the Krogan queen. Still prefer patter songs.
Of course. I really had to twist your arm.
I have to... So one of my favorite little moments... So it's specifically the editing of that moment in Mass Effect 2 where you hear Mordrin do the Gilbert and Sullivan song. And they do it beautifully because you have the performance, but they let it hold in the cutscene in just silent. You can't do any input. They just let that hang in the air for the perfect amount of time. and then just moves on like nothing happened. So I secretly wish, I have no idea how much I would pay for a deluxe edition that had videos of the recording sessions for Mordrin singing, but I suspect that's probably not. That's lost to time.
Something else, Commander?
Probably not, but let's see. Nope.
Thanks for talking to me.
It's my pleasure, Commander.
Shepard, Eve ready for travel to Tuchanka.
Nice talking with you, Mordin.
We'll be here if you need me. Continuing to study Shroud in meantime.
Maybe later.
Okay. You really get the sense these people are my friends when they won't even turn around to to tell me to
say that again.
Later. The population of the colony world of Tyvor has been killed.
I don't understand. The Reapers have been taking people alive.
It was self-inflicted. When Reaper forces invaded, Tyvor's colonists detonated nuclear weapons inside their cities.
Goddess.
Their deaths would have been instantaneous, Doctor.
Thank you, Glyph. That'll be all.
Intel from the Battle of Arcturus. Telemetry captured from Arcturus Station shows just how quickly Reapers poured in from the relay and tore through the Alliance fleets. VIs can analyze hostile fire in the data collected to increase weapon damage. They can also spend processing power looking for ways to improve shielding against Reaper weapons. So weapon damage or shields. I mean, I was struggling with my shields before, but I think if I play smarter, I can improve my defenses.
Working on anything?
I'm helping decode some of the Crucible's designs, or trying to. Theoretical particle physics based on specialized base 12 mathematics aren't exactly my specialty. And Javik is his usual forthcoming self. I'd trade my last 100 years to resurrect even one Prothean scientist to help us.
At your service.
You can tell how invested I was in that dialogue. Right, we already went here. I thought Javik was on this level, and then there was also the reporter, which I didn't see last time. That's the bathroom.
So, the Arachnite, that must get your mouth watering.
Can't do a story. That's as classified as it gets.
I suppose it would cause a panic, but wouldn't the news drive up recruiting?
It might also piss off a Krogan with diplomatic immunity. No thanks. Commander? Do we need to talk, Commander?
Not right now, Allers.
Let me know when we do.
There we go.
Edie doesn't pilot the Normandy, she is the Normandy.
No, she's a passenger in the Normandy, just like us. The ship was a spacefaring vessel before Edie even existed.
Engineer Donnelly is correct. The Normandy SR-2 was completely spaceworthy prior to my installation.
See, Edie agrees with me.
Edie's mind and the Normandy are a whole entity now. You couldn't just move the processors in the AI core to another ship.
Engineer Adams is correct. Processes that contribute to my self-awareness are spread throughout the ship.
See? Edie agrees with me.
But unlike Edie, our brains couldn't have existed without our bodies.
That is a requisite from being organic. You have to look beyond that limited definition of life.
Joker pilots the Normandy. He doesn't take over Edie's body when he does that. When Edie controls the ship, she's piloting, just like Joker.
Edie doesn't pilot the Normandy, she is the Normandy.
No, she's a passenger in the Normandy, just like us. The ship was a spacefaring vessel before Edie even existed.
Engineer Donnelly is correct. The Normandy SR-2 was completely...
The Normandy is a ship. EDI is a collection of processing hardware contained in that ship. Those are two separate things.
Doesn't the existence of the Reapers contradict that?
So what do you think, EDI?
Are we more than our thoughts?
I'm done. Any more of this and my head's gonna explode.
I wonder what the answer is when you side with Adams.
Adams would like to speak to you.
You should go see Adams, Commander.
After I disagreed with him?
Commander, remember the problem I mentioned? About a core overload possibly venting into the engineering compartment? Daniels, Donnelly, Edie, and I have been brainstorming and comparing notes.
You see, the venting occurs when IES sinks are in a back cycle. At the same moment, the main core is at peak draw, such as from sustained kinetic.
What Kenneth means to say is that we're pretty sure we can make the system safer.
We just need a GX-12 thermal pipe. Unfortunately, we're cut off from Alliance supply chains. Could you keep an eye out for one the next time you're on the Citadel, Commander? I've got the specs right here.
This is such a weird conversation to look at. Like, I don't know anybody in relation to each other in these
Are
close-ups.
these modifications really necessary?
It's a safety issue, not exactly critical. Under extreme conditions, like heavy bombardment to the kinetic
I
barriers
get it because I'm
traveling at
playing,
peak
but like...
flight speeds, plasma can vent into this compartment.
It would vaporize anyone standing in this room.
That sounds more serious than just a safety issue.
Well, under those conditions, odds are you're about to lose the entire ship anyway.
But we want every advantage we can get, right?
I'll look for one the next time we go to the Citadel.
Thanks, Commander.
Alright, so I'm getting more of a much bigger list of things to do when I'm on the Citadel, but that's fine. The hope is that I'll be turning in a bunch of stuff on the Citadel too. I'm assuming Javik is not going to have anything to say.
Seems you believed Protheans built the mass relays. The Reapers are cunning in their deception, allowing life to flourish, century upon century, letting us believe ourselves the masters of the cosmos. Then the truth becomes known. There are monsters in the dark spaces, and we are their prey.
Nope, we're already on engineering.
Hey, Esteban, for your shuttle being so stealthy and all, you sure do get shot at a lot.
Well, the UT-47A stealth systems only internalize heat and high-band emissions. So while few sensors can pick us up, our cover is blown as soon as someone looks up.
Time for an upgrade.
Most scanners and tracking systems don't operate in mid-range
Where is he?
frequencies. Sure, maybe we've been shot at, but we haven't been shot down.
Yet. Lucky for us, you're almost as good a pilot as you think you are.
Well, yeah. There's that, too.
Everything okay with the shuttle?
Just double-checking the inertia dampener coils. Can be twitchy in these UT-47s. But don't worry, this bird's been rock solid.
I always see you down here working your ass off. Ever take any downtime?
I get my sleep, Commander. Flying tired is nearly worse than flying drunk.
What about your waking hours? Any R&R?
I need to keep myself busy. Otherwise, well, too much time to think.
I appreciate your dedication, but I don't want to see you burn out.
I know my limits. I wouldn't take a chance with your life.
So before this war, you must have done something to relax.
Sure. I remember back when the Hawking was based out of Arcturus and I was just a fighter jock. There was this observation deck overlooking the main flight paths. You could watch every ship taxi in and out. When I was alone, I'd turn off the auditory emulators and just watch them drift by in silence.
You know, there are views like that on the Citadel. Next time we're there, you should take some shore leave. Clear your head.
I don't know. Maybe.
Take some time off on the Citadel, Steve. As a favor to me.
If you put it that way, how can I say no?
You can't.
That's a nice... there's a couple things that I like about that, which is, obviously, if the stakes are, you know, the continued existence of humanity along with all other sapient species, it's nice to have an answer in terms of what it's worth fighting for. Obviously, survival is worth it on its own. But of course, if you just, this is one of the things that I think maybe isn't always made explicit in these kinds of ones, but I like stories that address it, which is if survival is the only thing at stake, then there's really no challenge. I'm so used to modern games where if you can just walk into a punching bag, it sways. If it's just survival, then like an ending that gives you a complete dystopia is completely acceptable because humanity has survived. The idea of being able to preserve this little nucleus of human beings, the Doctor Strangelove ending, right? You take the brightest and best and give them enough enough women and put them in the deeper mine shafts and you can come out when everything's safe. That's fine. You've met the condition, but this is clearly not what people have in mind when you think of these kinds of games. And not every game, but a number of them do a fairly good job of adding these little elements. So you have, and this is the big thing, right? It doesn't have to be the big dramatic moment at the final fight where the main character suddenly realizes what they're fighting for. You have the character who's lost a loved one. This guy's lost his husband. He's throwing himself into his work to get his mind off of things. I completely know what this is like. Like, one of the reasons I've fallen behind in writing a little bit, but I think one of the ways that I really got better at writing for a while was when I was having some really tough times in Vancouver, and my usual way of handling that, partly it was just I wanted to understand what was happening to me, and that involved reading, and in order to be able to process what I was experiencing, I would also be writing at the same time, and that produced a lot of practice. So I relate a lot to what that guy is doing and how he's handling grief. But again, it's a little bit like the question in terms of, why do you go to work? Obviously the way that we've structured society is that you need some kind of an income in order to be able to get essentials. So you need, some kind of shelter, you need clothing, you need food. Those things cost money, and the way you get money is generally to work. But chances are you go to work in order to be able to afford a few other things. Work is not necessarily an end in itself, and generally when it does become that, we don't always view that as a healthy thing. And so, again, you don't have to have it in the big climax. You can have it as a character. You see someone who's thrown themselves into work, and this is a soldier, right? This is somebody who is taking you in and out of combat zones. And so you could say, if you can't solve the problem of what does this guy do in his free time, then the type of world that you are looking for at the end of the Reaper invasion is one of constant war, because if there's no Reaper invasion, if there's no next enemy, then essentially there's nothing for this guy to do. But being able to answer to that person who's lost something, this is why you should care. You ultimately answer that question for sentient life as a whole. The other thing that's nice too, you can show it. I mean, this is one of the things about games, is that they're visual, and it's not necessarily all that more expensive to show outer space compared to planet Earth. There's things like photogrammetry and that. So I think if you do fantastic settings, people aren't necessarily going to condemn you for not making it look super good. Whereas if you base something in day-to-day Earth, I think there's sometimes maybe an expectation that things look really good. So I don't know. I'd actually be kind of interested in seeing maybe some of the aesthetic choices made on games which take place in sort of the here and now. Then again, I guess there aren't a lot of games that are like that. Most of them do tend to be in fantastic settings. But there's obviously, the beauty of space. This is something that you see in lots of the best, the best science fiction. So that little bit of dialogue was also kind of nice, just because they didn't actually show it to you, but sort of in your mind's eye, hearing the guy talk about that thing that he did when he would relax to take a look at the view, you get something that you can conjure on your own. And again, it gives you a sense of peace, for me at least.
Grunt is crazier than you, and that's saying something. You're better looking, at least.
I don't even know why I try with this guy. I don't know what it is with him. I guess I just inherently dislike people like that. It's unfair, but... My project from the arts, Sony. Shepard, I've been working on something I'd like to show you. Can we meet in your quarters when you have a moment? All right. It's nice the game's giving me a reason to go to the captain's cabin other than looking at my my goodies. I like it. Okay. I know I've been babbling and not doing missions. We'll get onto the missions after the Liara thing. I have a confession to make about my personality, and this is so impossibly lame, but probably revealing too. I did this as a kid, but I also have to admit, as like someone who's grown up and living on his own, every time I go to the grocery store, I still check out the lobsters, and like if they have, crabs or fish, I still go to the seafood section and take a look at the lobsters and crabs, and there's a tilapia the last time I saw one. I love fish. I had fish growing up as a kid, but don't have them now, but yeah. I don't know. And it's a shame because, like, I know the lobsters are, the worst possible one is they're possibly going to be boiled alive, which is just nightmarish. I don't think Canada has laws against that yet. I think in France you can't. You have to like stun them before cooking them. None of the stuff that I'm looking at and admiring is going to have anything resembling a good end. But I don't know. I still check out the live seafood. Actually, one thing I miss about Vancouver is it had an aquarium, and because I knew it was there when I lived in Vancouver, I didn't always take advantage of the opportunity to go. Of course, now that I'm gone, I want to visit aquariums.
Liara, you had something you wanted to discuss in my cabin?
Yes, I'll be right up.
Come on in.
Thank you. Could we sit? I've been thinking about the knowledge we gathered on the Reapers, and how easily it could be lost again. So, I put a plan in motion to preserve things for the future.
What's this?
A record of the galaxy. Information on the Reapers, relays, different cultures, and blueprints of the Crucible. But there's one entry I wanted your opinion on.
Which one?
Your own. I'd be honored to have your input. How would you like history to remember you?
Oh wow, this is a really good moment.
50,000 years is a long time for a computer to sit around.
Please, I was an archaeologist. I know what I'm doing. I'm encasing these records in time capsules and seeding copies on multiple planets. And while it's not foolproof, the VI I'm installing has every translation and linguistics program I could find.
So it's an information guide like Vigil on Ilos?
Yes. I've been preparing it for some time.
And it will be a privilege to guide the future discoverers of these records. Have you decided what you would like Dr. Tassoni to write in your entry, Commander?
Oh, this is a tough one, because there's a side of me that wants it. This is her project, and so it's her job.
You know me well enough to fill in the blanks, Liara.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I'd like it to be your call.
All right. Let's begin with the fact that Earth's most famous officer was born and raised in space. Shepard was also a deadly tactical fighter. Most enemies never saw her coming. She was a soldier and a leader, one who made peace where she could. And it was a privilege to know her.
Careful this doesn't sound like a diary.
I can't help myself. You're a good friend, Shepard.
You've been there for me too, Liara.
No, I haven't. I wish I could have joined you back on Ilium.
You made up for it.
Well, I suppose I did just write your name in the stars.
That was really nice. I kind of wonder what the response would have been if I said to be honest, because I was very, very close to picking that one. But I'm not unhappy with the choice that I made. So, we might get a chance to do a priority mission. I don't think there's anything else for me here. I'm probably going to have to run out of Arcturus, so just as a caution. Oop. Oh, no, they're not mad at me. The wreckage of a fuel depot destroyed by enemy forces. Fuel can be salvaged from the debris. This one is a little odd just because I don't see any percentages. I'm pretty sure there aren't any.
Reapers deleted.
Okay, so everything in one location. You know, this might wind up being a bit of a waste, but I am going to try Myth again, just because I don't specifically remember going here.
Signal confirmed.
Aha. The Class B Blue Giant Nith was once the most strategically valuable system within Krogan territory. Although far too hot for habitable planets, Nith emits thousands of times the energy of a main sequence star like Sol. With help from Solarian uplift teams, the Krogan constructed a chain of solar-powered collector stations in orbit around Nith. These vast arrays beamed power to particle accelerators on the surface of Manton, which manufactured anti-proton fuel for warship thrusters. In the Krogan rebellions, the Spectre agents managed to get a virus into the computers of the solar power arrays. Every fifth array suddenly applied braking thrusters. The arrays behind them piled up, and all were reduced to wreckage. This has since dispersed into a relatively stable ring system. The Krogan never had the resources to rebuild the solar arrays, depriving them of the fleet's main fuel supply for the remainder of the war. The particle accelerators still exist on Manton, but have not been used in thousands of years. The wreckage of a fuel depot destroyed by enemy forces. Fuel can be salvaged from the debris. And that that's everything. So I will avoid scanning until the last moment. Okay, so I'm probably gonna have to run, but nope, well, we didn't get the angry buzz yet, so. Yeah, and this is a little bit more about finding those incidental items. I haven't been checking as carefully as I should for some of the side quests, so I'm just trying to get the markers from the game as to whether or not there's things I should be checking out. Ah, cool. Okay, so I get to sort of pick everyone. So, scarred by bombardment craters, radioactive rubble choking ash, salt flats, and alkaline seas, Tuchanka can barely support life. Thousands of years ago, life grew in fierce abundance under the F-class star Arlak, a Rayak clan word meaning Eye of Wrath. Tree analogs grew in thick jungles, their roots growing out of shallow, silty seas. Life fed upon life in an evolutionary crucible. This world died in nuclear firestorms after the Krogan split the atom. A little ice age of nuclear winter killed off much of the remaining plant life. In recent centuries, many Krogan have returned to their homeworld. The reduced albedo has caused global temperatures to rise. In order to maintain livable temperatures, a vast shroud was assembled at the L1 Lagrange point. It is maintained by the Council Demilitarization Enforcement Mission, CDEM. Sorry, I just got a thing on my phone which I should not have been paying attention to. CDEM, which is based on orbiting battle station. CDEM advisory. Visitors to Tuchanka land at their own risk. The CDEM will not attempt to extract citizens threatened by clan warfare. Travel advisory. The ecology of Tuchanka is deadly. Nearly every native species engages in some predatory behavior. Even the remaining vegetation is carnivorous. Travel beyond guarded areas is strongly discouraged. Population 2.1 billion. Capital currently Erdnot since 2183. CDEM garrison 2400 in orbital battle stations. Orbital distance 5.3 AU. Orbital period, 16.7 Earth years. Radius, 8,293 kilometers. Day length, 21.4 Earth hours. Atmospheric pressure, 1.1 Earth atmospheres. Surface temperature, 72 Celsius, 36 in shrouded areas. And surface gravity of 1.14 Gs. And if you will forgive me for a moment, I did just get a message from someone. And I've had a couple. Wow. Very interesting. Okay. I'm just taking a quick look at what happened with this. Taking a quick look at what's going on with these YouTube I'm sorry to do this on stream, but just a reminder, maybe not a reminder, but a detail we talked about at the beginning of the stream. Tonight was the start of sort of an experiment that I'm doing on YouTube, basically, to see whether or not I, if I do sort of shorter duration. If I do sort of shorter duration, YouTube videos for Cultist Simulator, is it something that people are going to connect with? Is it going to be something that people want? And it looks like the number of people who've seen that video within the first 3 hours of it going live is more than the video from how many weeks ago is that? Okay, now I'm actually kind of curious. So a video that's over a week old. Currently there's more people. I mean, it looks like people are watching like more of the video overall. So that's encouraging. I'm sorry to do that, but I know some of you used to watch on Wednesdays for Cultist Simulator, so it's exciting to see that turn out. So. All right, I think this time I'm going to bring Liara again, but I'm going to try Garrus this time. Although I guess I probably should have brought him for the Turian mission. And against my better judgment, I'm still gonna try. I'm still gonna try the sniper rifle I currently have. But okay, expand the singularity field by 35%, or detonate singularity when the field dies to inflict 420 damage across 5 meters. The extra damage is really tempting, but I did say area of effect was sort of the way I wanted to be going with most of these upgrades. So. Holy crap. Okay, I think we'll take everything up to level 3 was how I normally did this. And then I'll figure out what I have left. So the reason I just kind of default to level 3 for all of the characters is that it's before I need to do the branching. So if I don't if I don't have points left over, I get an idea of what the abilities do. Chances are I will have to do it. I'll have to make some decisions, but basically this gives me a baseline, and then I can start picking, well, what is the most important thing for me to be working on? So, flatten your enemy with precise blast to short and long range, overload electronics with a power surge, stunning your enemy, bring down heavy armor units, shoot through light cover to hit enemies, fire the sticky mine into traffic, it will detonate when an enemy steps within range, and boost weapon. Force and damage or impact radius. I think in this one I'm going to go for the force. And I do generally prefer... I do prefer specialization, but I think in these cases I'm going to spread the love. Increase health and armor damage by 6, or squad mates gain the ammo power now.
Do we know what Cerberus is up to?
No, but we do know that Cerberus doesn't act without a plan. Get in there and stop them. Find out what they're up to while you're at it.
We'll get it done.
See to it. Hack it out.
Looks like Cerberus got that cannon operational, Commander. I'll go back up and get a read on what they're shooting at.
Get on it. Alright, let's find the control room for those cannons. Kill anything in our way.
Sounds simple enough.
Commander, I have a visual on an inbound Cerberus cruiser. The cannon fire is clearing the way. If that ship makes it to bombardment range, the Krogan resistance is in trouble.
Keep track of it, Lieutenant.
On it.
I really thought that got that guy. Also, I forgot to load up my ammo. So again, my exploration instincts are really not serving me here. That sucks. Sniper rifles are melee weapons, right? So again, the whenever Hackett says, you know, find out what's going on, it says that I should be looking for... It says I should be looking for things that might give me an advantage. But that does not necessarily mean that I'm going to be making decisions that are geared towards my long-term survival.
Control center secure. And I think it's time to test this cannon.
Not before I loot everything.
Not the kind of Krogan relic I expected to find.
I do get to use this thing, right? I guess that's not an interaction symbol.
They're pulling the plug.
You'll need to get the power back on.
Let's move.
It's a sniper. I should have taken that one out first. I do get to fire, right? There we go. I should have gone for the Centurion, but I didn't think I was going to be able to hit him. Ooh, that's not good. Again, the smoke, it's something that I struggle with, but I think it's a great touch just because it forces me to involve the environment a little bit more. I seem to remember in Mass Effect 1 there was a level where I basically didn't move from one spot because anytime I moved away, it was more likely I would die or at the very least take a lot of damage. And so it wasn't necessarily the most fun way to play, but it was the way that I knew I wouldn't necessarily lose, and it was the way that I knew, like, the investment that I had put into doing this. This is the problem with strategies like that, is that you invest so much time into a thing that's not necessarily fun, that even though you're selecting into something that isn't that fun to do, you've already put so much into it that it's not necessarily something you want to give up. Like, that you lose the time that you already put in, and then you still have to go through the problem you were having. So what this smoke does, I mean, obviously here I'm staying put, but there's consequences for that. I'm not that effective at being able to take everyone out. I'm starting to run out of ammo for my sniper rifle. I definitely need to be careful on who I'm targeting. That guy's definitely a high priority because of the turret. Centurions with their smoke are another one. But basically the smoke gives me a reason to get out of the, you know, the area I'm in. Otherwise, you know, I'm just simply not going to be effective at achieving the goals. Hey, it's Assassin's Creed. Okay, let's take over that turret. That might have been effective against the enemy, but given how short the duration was on that last mission, I'd much rather take out an enemy than potentially have assistance. I didn't want to do that. Alright, well, I didn't take any damage, so... I'm pretty sure there was a guy here. I think there is a remaster on its way. I don't believe it's official, but there seems to be an indication that there is a product coming out. I mean, it's weird. I was talking a little bit about how the there just seem to be little imperfections in this that I don't seem to remember in Mass Effect 2. This is my first time going through this game. But there's, on the shareholder calls for EA, there have been suggestions, like, what they've been saying could be interpreted a number of ways. BioWare has been understandably quiet on their efforts to reboot Anthem, other than the fact that they are doing so. I'm actually quite looking forward to that, because I definitely think that there is a good game that more people should be able to experience inside of it. I'm glad they're putting the effort into it. But yeah, and then there was I can't remember the storefront, but there seemed to be a leak that there was a Mass Effect product that was coming out, and it was like a Mass Effect trilogy product. And then, like, obviously it vanished off the internet, because that sort of stuff isn't supposed, like, that's generally comes with a big announcement. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's sort of like a Switch edition, and alongside it there's like a remaster and whatnot. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. There's a couple of... I've had some gripes about it, but not in the sense of I'm not enjoying the game. It's more just sort of like, here are things that I liked previously about the other two games. The only game I'd played before was Mass Effect 2. And I'm really enjoying sort of the experience of seeing all of these callbacks to decisions that I'd made earlier on in the series. I do own Andromeda. Andromeda is actually one of the last EA games that I bought, because now I have the subscription service, which I love immensely. But I'll give it a try, because obviously it's a game whose reputation sort of precedes itself. And there are some things about what they were trying to do with it, whether or not they succeeded, that I thought were interesting, knowing that the inspiration for Mass Effect was originally a very old game called Starflight. That doesn't necessarily mean that I think it's going to be a good game. I'm kind of going in with a blank slate. But I would be interested in seeing what the game was, and maybe how much of the reaction was sort of based on this bandwagoning effect, and how much of it was just sort of either a problem with the game, or, the fact that they made a particular decision that wound up having maybe more long-term consequences. Because, obviously, one of the nice things about people trying to do something new is that you get new games that you're excited about, right? At one point, Mass Effect was something that we hadn't maybe really experienced before. And the best cases are, the experiments that don't work out, they get stopped before they get released. And other times somebody tries something and it doesn't work out, either due to a lack of time, or, too ambitious, or whatever. So I'd be interested in seeing what they were trying to do with the game, and seeing for myself where it didn't work out. Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, it was still financially successful, but I think it's a little bit like... so a game that I thought was highly underappreciated... I will... Actually, let me just activate the module, and they'll carry on.
I've rerouted the power to the main console. Heading back now.
I was talking about this last stream. I just finished Dawn of War 3, which is a game that obviously didn't find its audience. I actually thought it was quite a good game. I really liked what they did with it. But clearly, that is a shame. I really thought I had that. But, it's one of these cases here where if you want to have, post-release support, you need to have sort of an active, appetite for it. And, if a game is financially successful, that doesn't necessarily mean that the audience is going to be there for when you release new material. And this is one of the drawbacks about sort of the backlash for some games, is that depending on the severity... So, like, at this point, Andromeda is sort of a byword for failure. So with that in mind, it does raise a question as to whether or not the effort that someone puts into continuing to develop a game like that is necessarily going to have the financial reward, or if letting a property sort of cool down and then coming back to it with fresh eyes is a more viable strategy. Obviously, 2K with Rockstar takes that approach quite a bit. So like, there's a long time between Grand Theft Auto games or like Red Dead Redemption 2 was a very long time in coming. Which one is the better approach? I don't know. I mean, I think each company sort of has their own approach. But I wouldn't be surprised if eventually they come back to Mass Effect. I just think that...
Cannon control restored. Targeting enabled. Coordinates, Lieutenant.
Uploaded.
Firing.
Direct starboard hit, Commander. Target breaking up. Repeat. Direct hit.
That's a beautiful sight.
Yeah, too bad I didn't get to see it.
Good work, everyone.
No problem working. I mean, so here's the thing, like...
Shepard, with those Krogan cannons operational, Cerberus has actually given us the advantage in that system. The enemy's pulling back, but we think they'll try to seize the facility again.
Seems likely.
I'm sending an Alliance team to keep it secure. They've got a foothold in a strong defensive position, thanks to you.
Glad to hear it.
Good work, Commander. Hack it out.
If all I can really offer is a video of Mass Effect gameplay, that already exists on the internet. And given the fact that the game is so quiet for me, and the fact that I don't possess any preternatural skill for Mass Effect, I'm really not offering that much if all I can do is present the game. Not just present the game, but silently show Mass Effect gameplay. And that will always be inferior to the experience of playing Mass Effect. If there's a criticism of the game, is that it sometimes takes away the interesting decisions from you in the name of a cutscene. It's better than most. I've talked about this in a couple of previous episodes, but my view on this is that for me, part of streaming Mass Effect is to talk a little bit about my reaction to the game. And gaming as a hobby has definitely changed over time, and sometimes in negative ways, right? So the only thing I knew about Mass Effect 3 was that people were very upset by the ending, and I think that definitely marked a very, in my view, an unproductive turn in terms of the gaming hobby. I think there can be healthier dialogue with developers than what sort of seemed to come after Mass Effect. That doesn't mean that developers should be free of criticism. I just think that Mass Effect 3 kind of seemed to be sort of this marker of a more aggressive, I guess maybe a more shrill type of commentary, and one that doesn't necessarily lead to more productive places. So, but with that in mind, gaming doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's not that I'm sitting in a monastery somewhere playing Mass Effect completely unaware of the world that's going on around me, both in the sense of developments in the game industry as well as what this game might say to my own day-to-day experience. I talked, there's a throwaway line about a character who's working too much, and that can lead to interesting questions in this game about, what are you fighting for? If survival is the only mission, there's lots of different ways that you can achieve survival without necessarily having it be anything that resembles the kind of life that we might find desirable. And so once you start peeling that away, the idea of your combat or your pilot who drops you in and out of combat zones, if they can't find any meaning to their life other than throwing themselves into their work, and that work is warfare, then effectively the world that you are setting up for the future is one of constant warfare. Or alternatively, that individual is lost, which is, interesting in and of itself. I should also mention, too, I've been reading Plato's Republic recently, and I've just finished book 4. So this is for those of you who've read the work but maybe don't remember where everything is, like this is where they introduce the idea of the Guardians and you know, the structure of the ideal society and why you'd need a sort of standing army and whatnot. So, you know, there's a lot that you can unpack out of the idea that, you know, so one, it's a throwaway line of dialogue that this guy misses his husband and he, you know, he's throwing himself into his work to cope. But it gets to a more deep question at the, you know, kind of the center of any kind of save the galaxy story, which is, you know, why exactly is this thing worth saving? And again, if you solve that, I always like stories when they go to the micro level. If you can solve that for the individual, then you can possibly solve it for the galaxy. So you felt like the team was very short on time and just rushed to put something together. It wasn't a very fitting ending. It was very abrupt, you could say. Okay. I mean, that's a very common complaint about a lot of games. And it does actually bear through in some of the realities of development, because I think another EA game, a very good EA game, by the way, if you've not checked it out, A Way Out. It's a co-op only game, though. I think the completion rate for that one is 50%, and that is considered very, very high for games. And so clearly, and especially in an age where you can play a game for 2 hours and refund it, or up to 2 hours and still be able to refund it, clearly the attention is going to go to that initial experience to try and hook you in. And of course, if you have to pull back, it's going to be in the material that people are going to experience the least. And at least in terms of linear stories like this one, it's always going to be the ending. So it's entirely possible. I mean, like I said, I have to reserve my judgments for the end. But this is a very long way of me saying that I don't mind the chatting, because I think in the end, BioWare gives us the story. It's up to us to react to the story. It's up to us to say what we get out of that. You know, and it's totally fine. Like, you don't have to like tell your life story in response to it. Like, you can just say, that was a really fun ride and I can't wait for a remaster or a sequel or a prequel or something else. But of course, as a broadcaster, I think the fact of the matter is that even sort of people with a casual association with video games kind of are aware of a larger industry around them, and so sometimes talking about that context is helpful. So I don't feel people should apologize for chatting. In the end, they give me something to work with, right? Okay, the Krogan. The Krogan clans have agreed to throw their considerable might against the Reapers. Their shock troops are aggressive, relentless, and recklessly brave. Krogan 1st Division. The Krogan 1st Division is a conglomeration of infantry and vehicles hastily organized into a single coalition force. The chain of command is divided by clan, with representatives from each serving as officers. Despite ancient differences, fighting the Reapers together is building a spirit of camaraderie among the division's warriors. Krogan from different clans are starting to swap equipment, stories, and even the occasional barrel of Rincall? I don't think I've encountered that word. Well, I've probably encountered that word before, but I don't recall it. So I don't think the Primarch is going to have anything new for us
Commander?
to say. No.
That's all.
Of course, Commander.
Need something, Shepard?
That's it for now, Rex. Let's get back to work.
Anytime.
I'm kind of wondering at what point do I just say I'm not gonna test the characters after events. There's a side of me. Actually, you know what? Tell you what. If the
War makes people stupid. Besides, you talked with Moreau? Electors invaded this ship and kidnapped the crew.
Damn. Okay, I guess we gotta be ready for anything to come through that door.
these two speak very freely when the commander's in the room.
Commander.
Yeah, so no point in doing the rounds on the ship again. Let's just do the next mission on Tuchanka. I should just caution, it's been great to have you in here working 55. I usually go for about 3 hours, so I probably have just another half hour left in me. But the good news is we have a bunch of missions on Tuchanka, so if you're looking for Mass Effect 3 gameplay and my version of it isn't too offensive, happy to have you. But I feel bad when I've been broadcasting for a bit, people come in and they're active in the chat, and then everybody kind of gets settled in for an evening of content, and then it's like, well, see you guys, thanks. Don't forget to, follow, subscribe, donate, blah, blah, blah. So with, I try to sort of flag the hour of doom, so it doesn't become too jarring to people. All right. I didn't mind having Garrus, but the Liara Edie combo's been working for me. It's funny, Liara wasn't someone I really put a lot of consideration into, but she's definitely had one of my favorite moments in the playthrough so far. Do I have a set schedule with just end with K thanks bye? How you doing, Melee Mage? It's been a while since I've been able to do a shout out lately. Do you have a set schedule that you stream? I do. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So my ideal is 7 to 10. I do give myself an hour window to start because I have a day job, and it's one that seems to be taking more of my hours than I'm actually booked because of the work from home. Now, I'm very grateful to have a job during those, during the present state of the world. But I have noticed that work from home has been a very effective way for my employer to get some extra work out of me without really providing the compensation, let's say. But yeah, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I do actually normally do strategy games. So Monday is sort of a dedicated Paradox day. So I've been doing a lot of Age of Wonders Planetfall lately. That hasn't necessarily been the most popular, but especially if you like my chattier side, strategy games really give me a chance to go very in depth in terms of why I'm taking certain actions, and they kind of keep me honest as to whether or not my behaviors are. It's one thing to predict what's going to happen, but if you see the response, you are confronted with the fact that things didn't turn out the way that you wanted. So that's a good one. If you really just like Mass Effect, this is basically the game that I've been playing on the Wednesdays and Fridays. I have been thinking about doing a little bit of a diversion for Industries of Titan, Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, or a little indie strategy game, which I don't think anybody's really heard of. I think it's called High Strategy Urukon. I'll get the exact title when I do the stream. But for the most part, I've rechanged the lineup so that on Wednesdays and Fridays I've been doing as much Mass Effect as I can, because I used to have this format where it'd be a different game on each day, and then I would it'd just take a really long time to get through stuff. Like I did Outer Wilds every Friday, and I really enjoyed Outer Wilds, but I don't know whether or not I would have enjoyed it even more if I'd just sort of done it in a big stream. Sorry, I shouted out Melee Mage, but I didn't say who he was. Melee Mage has recently been playing Final Fantasy. I saw him do Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. I don't know if you'd switch. I didn't actually look at the game that you were playing when I went off. I don't know if you changed the games or if it was just a different level on Crystal Chronicles, but I feel like you switched over. I could be completely making that up. But I've had the pleasure of meeting him in Vancouver. And a heck of a guy, in addition to being very good. I was a smaller streamer, just kind of like I am now. I definitely... He knew me when I had more concurrent viewers. But he's somebody who has really kept with it for a while and has always put on a good show whenever... whenever I've been able to stop by. And I don't get to stop by as often as I wanted because I did a stupid thing and moved across the country. But I would definitely say I kind of feel like you're in your element when you're playing RPGs. They're definitely been the most memorable for me. And on top of that, he continues to threaten me that if I ever come back to Vancouver, my liver will be severely punished in the debauch that will follow. So... Anyways, definitely somebody worth checking out if Final Fantasy is your thing. Well, not just Final Fantasy, but I'm debating the cryo ammo. I don't use the tactical cloak that much, so yeah, let's boost the cryo ammo. I think we'll leave everybody else.
This crash site's a nightmare. Edie, try to raise Lieutenant Victus.
Yes, ma'am.
I've heard rumors of Cerberus activity on Tuchanka, but nothing about Turians.
Commander, I have to land well back from the main crash site.
That the best you can do?
Yes, ma'am. The Reapers seem unaware of our presence. You might get the jump on them.
Alright, set her down. Let's save this platoon. Okay. Did you raise Lieutenant Victus?
Yes, but the connection is bad.
Patch me in. This is Commander Shepard, Alliance Navy. Do you read?
This is Lieutenant Tarquin Victus of the 9th Platoon. We're pinned by Reaper harvesters and taking heavy casualties. Also, there are pockets of my men scattered along the crash trajectory.
Lieutenant, I need you to fire a flare so I can find your position. Got it.
Things get worse by the minute. My men are dying.
Well, I'm not going to help if you have that
Sounds
attitude.
bad. Let's move.
All right. I'll actually remember to...
was rather amazing.
I always debated about the fact that you don't necessarily start with your ammo equipped, and I'm like, well, you know, is it really that much of a challenge for them to default you with some kind of ammo? I don't think there's any penalty for using one or the other.
Shepard, any idea what these Turians were here to do?
Maps of the area list no important resources.
I will admit there's also something kind of fun about like loading up at the start of each mission. So on balance, I actually kind of like the... Okay, well if I have to kill them quickly... Nothing wrong with a melee sniper. Oh, it is if I can't aim with my pistol. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think in I can't remember if in...
It appears that they survived the crash, and then a harvester exploded the pod.
Died in the explosion?
And then pulled out to be eaten by husks.
Picking up auditory evidence of conflict.
Okay. I have a visual on the enemy, and there's an escape pod just beyond. Looks like the Turians are in tough. Enemies up ahead don't know we're here.
Then surprise is on our side.
Exactly. Let's go.
Yeah, I don't remember if I maxed out my abilities in number 2. I really wish I could see more than one enemy so that... Oh, here we go. Oh, that is so upsetting that I didn't have the item reloaded. Get behind cover, you fool. But yeah, I mean, at this point, it's all, like the abilities that I've been looking at it's all kind of gravy at this point. I really wanted the disruptor ammo sorted out, but...
That harvester will compromise the escape pod.
Okay, at this point, I'm just worried about getting the volume of... What's this against? Sure, I can work with weakened armor. Oh yeah, I should also be using my own ability. I don't know if this thing has a weak point or not, but it's kind of a moot point.
Don't stop for us. We'll head for the main crash site.
There's another pod ahead.
We managed to save them all.
Keep moving. We need to find the main crash site ASAP.
The pressure for Lieutenant Victus to succeed in light of his father's promotion must be intense.
Organic species give disproportionate credit to parental influence. Peer groups are a more important factor in determining behavior.
I realized the like robot character giving the clinical analysis of human behavior has been done before, but I do enjoy the little bits of dialogue that Edie has. Yeah, well, they spotted us now. Alright, so I should be taking out the Marauder first, but I'll at least get 2 people. Well.
Heads up! Harvester incoming!
Shepard, another harvester!
Thanks, I kind of figured that out. I'm not sure what I have to escape. I'm guessing probably one of the husks got me. Right, that was a thing. I think I can still make it, but just in case. Hey, and a new codex entry.
Saved all the Turians. It feels good. This way.
Yes, I'm sure you can say it feels good when you're the one who does not get hit
Come this way.
in the face, but hit in the face with the laser beam.
Hang tight. We're on our way.
Hang tight is not an ETA, Commander Shepard.
Barnick, how's our velocity? Deceleration online. We'll survive. Victus is going to pay for this. Court-martial are hanging.
Commander, how do you...
When we find him, we'll ask.
Yeah, it just comes down to, like, it's really just the question. This has been true of every Mass Effect game. The difference between the ammo has never struck me as being like the time of okay. So basically, I don't normally like being in this. Menu. So the time it takes for me to mess around with the different sort of abilities, I kind of always view that as like wasted time compared to like the more fun stuff I could be doing. So for the most part, I've never really bothered with the.
It's retreating.
I've never really bothered with the switch. It's one of the reasons why I've sort of stuck with the Disruptor, because for the most part, the enemies that I've struggled against the most tend to be susceptible to hits from that. He's angry. And it's sort of like an opted-in inefficiency, just because I like doing out of the list of things that the games let me do, I like switching ammo types is not one of them. But I know it kind of comes off as me not knowing how the game works. I might be able to. I mean, they're up in the top left corner, but again, it's just of the number of things I pay attention to on the screen at any given moment, the ability management isn't one of them. Although I do like, with that in mind, the ability to sort of pause and think about what's going on is something that I do kind of like.
Are playing with political dynamite here. Maybe they should inform the Krogan.
I need these guys working together. Better not to complicate things.
The other thing I've learned is that if with the hotkeys, like my tendency to like twitch with my my movements does tend to result in me like aiming stuff at a wall very often. So I try to avoid like basically this is a specific decision saying I want this, this, and this, and I get to pause for a second and say everything's locked in and I'm ready to go. If I do a hotkey and then I'm like, wait, there's something over here, and then my incendiary winds up in a wall, I feel very very cheated. Again, it's an idiosyncratic thing. It's totally on me and me being a weirdo, but I don't know, it works for me. So looks like we lost someone. I really wanted to test this hypothesis that I get a free res if I actually go to the victim. That is a lot of marauders. Ah, that is not what I wanted to do. Okay, that's fine. This is so slow. Alright, that didn't do anything. Oh, Jesus Christ, that's a Turian. If I killed him, I would have just turned to my squad and said, hey, good shot though, right? See, I keep hitting space to, I'm dead. I keep hitting space to get out of my cover so that I can go and do, like, another thing. And, what it makes me do is vault over the cover I'm working with. This might be a mouse and keyboard thing, but I kind of feel like the combat controls took a step back compared to... Okay. I only get one shot, but I'll make it count. Oh god, there's more. They're behind me. Cool. One thing that you think would be amazing for a prequel would be to play as a Batarian general during the onset of the Reaper invasion of their planet. Oh, that'd be interesting. Particularly because the Batarians, like, in addition to being a minor faction, definitely come off as very unlikable. And I feel like BioWare in particular, but even Mass Effect in general, has been really good at telling stories of groups that are either undervalued, underappreciated, disliked, you know, creating sympathy for characters that you may not necessarily... you know, the kind of people who you might in day-to-day life, if you were someone who existed in that world, you know, view with tremendous prejudice. And I feel like a Batarian story would be really ripe for that kind of material. I also feel like a game
Lieutenant Victus?
built around ship combat would be interesting in the setting.
Commander Shepard, my men and I are in your debt. Thank you for saving so many.
What happened here?
He screwed up. Stand down, soldier. These men are dead because of him. I said, stand down.
Hey, I just saved all your asses, so everyone just calm down. Lieutenant, what's going on here?
I made a bad call. This is all on me. I chose caution and clever tactics over a head-on attack. And my men paid the price.
You mean the crash?
Yes. We could see on Hollow that Reaper forces were blocking our intended path. Staying on course guaranteed heavy casualties. So I chose a safer route, skirting the enemy. And that took us low and through these ruins. When we encountered resistance, there was no room to maneuver. Suddenly, we were in a fight for our lives. A lot of my men lost that fight.
Owning your mistake takes guts, but you have to get over it and move on.
Of course. It's just fresh right now. Our mission's still a failure. When we've stabilized the injured, we'll head back to the fleet.
You're abandoning your mission?
We're down over 30 men. It'd be suicide.
What exactly did you come here to do?
There's a bomb on the planet. We were sent to defuse it.
A bomb? How big?
Enormous. Cerberus has it.
Lieutenant, If Cerberus has that bomb, you have to finish your mission.
Haven't these men sacrificed enough?
I understand. This kind of sacrifice is the hardest to ask for, but your men signed on for it, and so did you.
My men have lost hope, Commander. Even if I wanted to finish the mission, they don't.
It's your job to make them want to.
How?
Their sacrifice means that others will never face what they faced here today. Remind them that those sacrifices have no honor if the mission fails.
Men, I own what happened here today. But we have to carry on.
No, we don't. Who cares about a few dead Krogan? It's over.
We are Turian, and we will not let Cerberus succeed. Our sacrifice is the difference between life and death for this entire galaxy. Let the heroes of the 9th Platoon be remembered for performing their duties with bravery. All right, men. Shuttle's arriving any minute. We're moving out. Commander, come with us. We're a shell of what we were. We could use the help.
Send me the nav point. I'll see what I can do.
Thank you. That'll give us time to do a little recon. See what we're up against.
Victus, you have a second chance here. Make their sacrifice count.
Understood, Commander. Hope to see you at the rendezvous.
So there's a couple things that went into the decision there. Oop.
Cerberus bomb. What the hell is going on, Commander? And what do the Turians have to do with it?
Coordinates Victus gave me place it in the Kelphic Valley. It's a heavily populated area. That's all I know.
My gut says something's not right here.
What do you suggest?
Get the Primarch to come clean.
Should we alert the Krogan military?
I'd wait. We're in the dark here. Krogan-Turian relations are fragile until the genophage is cured. Let's not push it. And how about this bomb? How many troops does Cerberus have on this?
No idea. All I know is, we can't have them detonating that bomb.
Keep me in the loop. Hack it out.
So there's a little torn... Oh, they're going to force
Victus.
the Primarch.
Impressive work on Tuchanka. I'm grateful that...
Why didn't you tell me about the Cerberus bomb? Why hide that? What else are you keeping from me?
I have nothing for you.
For our alliance to work, I need to trust you.
Our friendship is new, Commander. Would you trust me with information that puts your people, puts Earth, at risk?
Why would I jeopardize our alliance by lying to you now? It doesn't make sense.
Decisions like these weigh heavy on me. When I was a general, I could pass them up the chain of command. But now, I'm all I've got. Know what I mean?
Sure. And
that's all. Wait, there is one more thing, Commander. Thank you for saving my son.
So one of the reasons that option was difficult, there's the backstory for this Shepard character, which would be very consistent with a kick their asses answer. However, one of the reinforced ideas in terms of the decisions we've been making earlier on has been the hearts and minds element of pushing back the Reapers, as well as being an inspiring individual and whatnot. So if you say to a bunch of people, kick their ass and get them to help out Tuchanka, in the end, these are going to be people who ultimately question whether or not this alliance is worth it. They're going to hear about what's happening in the Turian homeworlds, and they're going to be saying we redirected forces so that some guy who already lost a bunch of our own could save a few Krogan. Whereas if you build the esprit de corps, if you say you do the hard job no matter what, that is more consistent with the kinds of qualities that you would imagine would take out the Reapers. So given the fact that there's a new mission, likely I'm not going to be able to do the priority on Tuchanka tonight. I am going to do another one, even though it'll probably take me longer than 5 minutes. But because Working brought it up, for those of you who've heard me say this before, I'm sorry, because I've mentioned this a couple of times in Mass Effect, but I think for people who like Mass Effect and like playing older games, this can actually be kind of a rewarding experience. So I talked a little bit earlier about how Mass Effect was apparently inspired by an old EA game called Starflight. Now, Starflight was really interesting in a number of ways, and I actually finally got through GOG when I was on better terms with them, the PC version of Starflight, which was very different from what I had originally experienced, which was an old emulator of the Genesis version of that game, which got a big graphical update and is actually, I think, is quite playable. So there are a bunch of different species in Starflight, and in some ways it bears a little bit of a relation to the game FTL, if you've played that, in which you're sort of managing your crew and their different specializations while you're going out. But what's really interesting about Starflight in relation to Mass Effect is to know that what made that game interesting was you started in a space station, and you'd sort of fly to planets. You'd be looking for new colonizable worlds. You're also looking for a particular fuel source, which is very rare, very valuable. And one of the first things you'd be doing would be all of these mining operations to sort of build up some capital and be able to outfit your ship towards the the larger goal of finding these colonizable worlds. And there's a really interesting story about suns sort of suddenly going nova and destroying the systems. It leads to this mind-blowing ending, which I debated about saying because I think it actually has some bearing as to the Reapers, but I won't say it here on its own. But if you've played Starflight and you play Mass Effect, you can actually really see the influences. So the Mako sequences are very similar to when you would land on a planet and go sort of mining different resources and whatnot. And the funny thing is that this is the thing that's sort of been pulled away from the Mass Effect games over time. They're the parts that people kind of complained about the most, and I can sort of see why. Like, it feels like they never 100% got it there. And the thing that really was in the Starflight game, again, this inspiration for Mass Effect, that never really fully got into the series was this, this whole experience of going to different planets and really exploring them and seeing what was going on. And if you, again, I'm getting this from the Kotaku article about what the intentions were for Mass Effect Andromeda, but apparently one of the original plans was to have sort of all of these procedurally generated worlds. And again, I think the story of that one is finding sort of a suitable replacement for Earth to colonize. And so you can sort of finally see this as Mass Effect coming home, taking that original inspiration of Starflight and realizing it in terms of the game. Now, that's clearly not what happened. Apparently that wound up being a very big time sink, and in the end they went for a set of handcrafted planets. But it does lead me, I've said this a couple of times, but it does lead me to this wonderful what if BioWare had teamed up with No Man's Sky, who I think was doing, or Hello Games, who was doing No Man's Sky at the time. Obviously, these are two fairly famous examples of games that had less than enthusiastic receptions, and yet I cannot think of a better combination of two bits of technology that would have gotten to that core of what I think the people making Mass Effect found so interesting in their source material, relative to the game that we actually got. Now, again, I haven't played Andromeda, so I can't really comment on that. But because I've played I haven't fully played Starflight, but I'm familiar enough with it, and sort of knowing its influence on the original game, it's really interesting to view the series in that light, and in some ways of them wanting to capture some things about a game that presumably they enjoyed playing growing up. It's kind of before my time, so I know of it more through having already played modern games and then going back to this thing. But I don't know, for those, I'd say for those of you that can handle like older games, and I mean, if you play the Genesis version, I'm sure, like console games they're not super impossible to understand. The PC one's a little hard. Like, I find it a little hard to get into. But it's an interesting little artifact, and the more I play this trilogy, the more I sort of appreciate how that game sort of worked its way into a few little details inside here. Actually, I'll tell you what. If somebody in chat would like to would like to know where I think the connection with the Reapers from Starflight is, I will let you opt in.
I'm grateful for all you've done, Commander. The situation with the Krogan is already complicated enough.
Not as complicated as waking up one day and being told you're the new Primarch.
Yes, thank you. I'm beginning to understand why leaders so often seem lonely. Worst-case scenarios aren't just theories. They're what you'll be dealing with 5 minutes from now.
That's why it helps to have allies.
Yes, you're right, of course. Is there something I can help you with?
But yes, if you want to know the connection, I'll let people opt in. I'll say maybe for 3 minutes, just mute the stream if you don't want to know the spoiler for the decades old game. I think it's a mind-blowing ending. I actually really like the touch, but I won't force it on people because I know some people might want to experience it. You be done? Okay. Tell you what, guys. So I'm gonna set a timer. I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes. I think I can do it. And at the end of 3 minutes, I'm going to stop talking about it. And if I get done earlier, I'll put a notice up. So if you... Now, again, this is about the game Starflight, which is decades old, and a number of you may not have heard of. So... maybe you don't care about a spoiler, but if you care about spoilers, you want to keep watching the stream because I'm going to do at least one more mission. You can mute the stream now. I'm starting a 3-minute timer starting now. Okay. So I was talking about how you are looking for this fuel, and this fuel is really rare, and how the suns are kind of going supernova. What you find out is that there's this crystal planet that's going into these systems, and it's causing the suns to flare. And your final mission in the game is to go to this crystal planet, deposit basically a bomb called the Black Egg, and blow it up. And that there was a commander before you that was sent to do this mission and never returned. So when you get to that planet, you actually find the body of the commander, and there is there's a journal entry about him. And what he's discovered is that the fuel source, the thing that is allowing interstellar travel, is actually a sentient being with an incredibly low metabolism. So what you think is a mineral, it's like what if oil could think and had no way of communicating with you, and what you have been doing has been burning oil, this living creature alive, and the crystal planet is basically this species' way of defending itself. And then, you're left with the decision, you have to blow up the planet or humanity is destroyed. But that was a total mind job when I first ran into that. So the reason I think that's connected with the Reapers is if you consider what humanity is in this, right? Humanity is the fuel for the Reapers' advancement. And again, I don't know if this is intentional on Mass Effect's part, but if you think about it, right, this whole idea of the cycles, the Reapers know what they're doing and they're very malicious about it. But I think it's close enough that this is just BioWare's really clever little inversion of that real mind-blowing ending to Starflight. And again, I don't know if they're I've never seen an interview to talk about that. I'd love to talk to somebody who is in the decision-making process to know if that was the origins. But I think that is I think it's close enough to me that I wouldn't be surprised if that was intentional. But one way or the other, that is such a good ending for a game. I never would have come up. That is coming back to the classic science fiction that got people into making science fiction movies. This is the sort of stuff that you would have seen in 1960s novels and that. But I got 22 seconds on the 3 minutes, so that is the Starflight spoiler that I think has some bearing on the way that the Mass Effect trilogy wound up going. I really loved your reaction to that, though. That's why I like talking about the Starflight ending, because most people are not going to experience that, but it's a really good one when you hear it.
What was that all about with the Primarch?
Turian's up to something?
It's nothing. Don't worry about it.
Uh-huh. All right.
That's it for now, Rex. Let's get back to work.
Anytime.
I had a buddy who got discharged. Category 6 after Eden Prime.
At 6?
Damn. Commander, you've got a new message at your private terminal.
Yeah, well, I mean, I already told the, or he already found out that I destroyed the cure for the genophage originally, so I'm already on his, I'm mad at you list. From Jessica Fromm, Dear Commander Shepard, my name is Jessica Fromm. You saved my life on Benning. I've lost so many friends in all of this, but I hope in the idea that their memory lives on in me. I know I'm just one woman, but I wanted to let you know that you're making a real difference. Bless you, Commander. Jessica Fromm. Well, I'm remembering in Mass Effect 2 the circumstances under which I decided to do that, and I still think I was justified at the time, but I very clearly struggled with the consequences of that decision in this game, and I like that this game did that to me.
Are you alright, Commander? It sounded like things were bad down there.
I'm fine.
The Turians took some heavy losses, but we got them out okay.
I'm really bad at cutting off the dialogue. I suspect I won't be able to get that back, but...
Sorry, it's encrypted. Cracking it would take at least a week, and it would be wrong. Commander?
All right. Lost to the sands of time. Let's get one more in. We'll locate the bomb, and we'll call it for an evening. But we'll probably wind up starting with curing the genophage on Friday. So I'm well and truly past the mark. Eastern time.
Normandy shuttle. This is Lieutenant Victus with the 9th Platoon. Do you copy?
We hear you, 9th Platoon.
We're approaching the bomb site, Commander. Getting bounced around pretty bad.
This is as close as we get, Lieutenant. Look for somewhere to set your platoon down.
Copy that.
Talk to me about this Cerberus bomb.
It's not Cerberus, Commander. It's Turian.
I never would have guessed.
It was planted centuries ago, after the Krogan rebellions. The bomb was a safeguard against another galactic war.
To keep the Krogan from becoming a threat.
Makes sense. Couldn't trust the Krogan to play nice. But right now we focus on disarming that bomb.
Yes, but Cerberus found it. Detonation means all-out war between my people and the Krogan.
Right. Where is it?
Those buildings ahead. Cerberus brought equipment to dig it up. The 9th Platoon will cover your flank, Commander.
With all this activity, the Krogan have to know something's up.
Then we can't fail, Commander.
Copy that, Lieutenant.
I said I get it, but this is kind of like using landmines. It's a really awful thing to do. This was really neat, by the way. I can't think of a lot of times where Mass Effect starts you off in a hot. I also forgot to load my ammo. But there's definitely something really interesting about running in, kind of running into the maw like that. Of course, now I'm just going to be ducking behind cover the whole time. But this is exciting. I actually probably would prefer it if more combat started this way in this game. It's really neat. I don't think I'm going to be able to. Oh, I thought there was a multiplayer in this. Then again, there can be multiplayer without co-op. Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, within the story, I think there's a justification of sort of one larger-than-life hero where co-op maybe wouldn't be as appropriate. But, I mean, stories can change, right? You can build games around... In the end, like, the game is what matters, and if co-op can bring more to the experience, you should probably be focusing on that rather than the narrative. At least in my opinion. Like, you can still tell a good story... with in fact, actually, I would argue that co-op would probably be reinforcing so I keep thinking there's guys in the area because of the ambient audio.
Once we reach the bomb, I'll need to reprogram the trigger mechanism.
You and 3 people surviving increasingly difficult ways. Okay, fair enough. Like, one of the things about this is that there's this really kind of militaristic sort of tone to this series. You know, like, especially the first game, right? It's like the military people always have the good ideas and the politicians are just getting in the way. And it's like, what, like, at what point does this say, you know, we just need to unite behind the strong leader and everything will be okay, right? Like, you kind of, there's definitely a way of like looking at that game and being like, I'm not really sure I like where this is going. And it sort of lightens it up a little bit moving on. For instance, the fact that, like, Anderson is not really able to handle the, you know, the day-to-day operations of the Citadel and the Council. Even because, I mean, like, the thing is that Udina is set up to be such a dick that I don't really know why anybody really wants to see him get the council seat. Which is, again, maybe an interesting portrayal in how Commander Shepard sees the world, right? But if, you know, when you're talking about how co-op would be, you know, would be good, you sort of escape that sort of, you know, the sort of the fascist heart of the Western, right? The, you know, the one person coming in and solving all the problems with violence. I feel that co-op is a little bit more in line with what this game is about, which is about creating consensus, uniting the galaxy against a threat, where like, basically like, it takes the third game to finally have the other shoe drop in terms of why, you know, humanity just coming in and conquering everyone, or, you know, assigning Commander Shepard as an emergency dictator won't work, because Javik is the failed Shepard, and they had an empire. It was, you know, join or die, and they failed to defeat the Reapers, and so. But, you know, that's, you've got a couple of games where you're trying to build up to that, and so I feel like co-op probably would have done a better job of helping you, you know, helping you navigate and maybe bring a few more interesting ideas in the story earlier on. Yeah, that's just it. I mean, I don't even know if Udina gets drawn all that better later on in the series, just so much as you can't really get rid of him, so I think you just learn to accept him. That's fine. I mean, like, you know, let's face it, like, we don't exactly think very highly of politicians. Even in Canada, like, you know,
I don't like the sound of that.
There's not too many people who people are like, oh yes, that politician, the person I like.
Cerberus is leaving.
With that in mind, though, like, I don't mean to say that the portrayal of Udina as an ass is necessarily a bad thing. It just raises the interesting question as to whether or not he is objectively an ass, or if the game is ultimately giving you the perspective that Shepard would have of a political leader. Because, right, like, the way I kind of make sense of this would be, you know, think of a manager you had, maybe even, like, again, it depends where you are in your career, I guess, but, like, Think of a manager you either have or had.
It must have been far enough underground to stay hidden. Cerberus had to dig it out.
It must have been strategically placed for maximum yield. I advise haste, Commander.
Commander, we're entering the bomb site. Moving towards the control station.
Roger that. We're on our way.
Now, chances are, you know, if you didn't like that boss, they definitely had dickish tendencies, and they were probably meaner to you than they needed to be.
The bomb should be clear.
They were also probably not the the personification of evil that you thought they were at the time. It's very fitting, seeing as humanity just won the war against the Turians and earned their spot on the... Yes. That was actually, I think, the thing I liked the most about Mass Effect 1 was sort of this story. At least the way that I played Shepard was sort of this this ascendancy of humanity taking its place in the galaxy. Given that I kind of went for more Paragon, I think probably just as a person I'm a little more Paragonish. I don't necessarily need to. I don't necessarily play games to exercise my bid. Oh, that's a shame. But I kind of took it.
Like control schematics for automated turrets. No good now, but they might be useful later.
I kind of took it as humanity taking on its role in the galaxy and the responsibilities that entails. But obviously, it seems in the first game, I don't know what happens if you go for it, but
we need to hurry.
To me, it definitely seems like you have the option of like humanity seizing its place in the galaxy.
Cerberus set up a firewall around the trigger
Independent
mechanism to slow us down.
of who pays for
I need
it.
to create a bypass. That'll take time. But like you said, no trigger, no explosion.
Are you sure you can disarm the trigger?
Yes, it's old tech. I know what to do. Buy me a few minutes, Commander.
I'll just because there's dialogue going on here. I think there's two reasons why I feel more comfortable with Paragon choices. Not always. Like again, whenever I play a game like this, I kind of have an idea for a character in the back of my head, and it's not necessarily like a fully worked out biography. I don't think that's all that interesting. But having a little bit of an idea of like who this person is and how they might, like again, trivial stuff. Like, is this the sort of person who would put the shopping cart back after groceries, or would they just leave it in the parking lot? The most trivial of activity. I think there's two reasons why Paragon options feel a little more comfortable in Mass Effect. And again, I'm totally talking my own book here. I don't have any kind of telemetry in terms of what people's choices were. I'm sure BioWare has it. But they're probably also not going to make that available to us. One, it's a space opera. And so, it just tends to be these very larger-than-life heroic figures who do good things, epic deeds and great tasks. But I think the other thing, too, I was talking about this earlier on in the playthrough, this game is actually pretty grim at spots. Like, the idea of becoming a husk, potentially even a living person impaled on a spike, drained of their fluids and replaced with cybernetics, or, seeing someone sort of digested in one of the collector pods. Like, there's some really, really horrible stuff in this game. To a point where I think that might have accounted for why Andromeda had, beyond the technical problems with the game, like, I kind of feel like people might have had an expectation about what a Mass Effect game was, and I get the feeling that Andromeda was an effort to try and pull back from some of the darkness of the trilogy. And so in the face of a really... It's okay, so it's not like Warhammer 40k levels of grim, but, the husks, the idea of someone like Saren, this idea that there's a buzzing in your brain and you've slowly been converted so that you think you are, you're given this special knowledge that will help, where in fact you've just completely lost any will, and give it a few more months and you will be a raving lunatic. Like, these are really sinister and really dark ideas. And so I think in that context, there's an inclination to try and address the balance, and in that sense, behaving heroically, behaving in a Paragon way, sort of feels like it's filling the hole that the main narrative has left you. Hey, how you doing, Sean?
We'll make sure you have the time you need, Lieutenant.
For those of you who
Understood.
don't know him,
bypass. And thank you for making sure I get this chance.
Just make it right, soldier.
I'm sorry to
Commander!
Focus on the bomb. We'll
tell you what,
handle
I'll give you a link to Sean's games in a bit, but Sean is a game designer, and I'm sure some of you would like to check out his stuff.
Nobody gets past us. Clear?
I should caution you, Sean, I'm actually getting close to wrapping up, but this is my first time playing Mass Effect 3. Well, I say playing Mass Effect 3, but really I just kind of talk over it the whole time.
I need more time, Commander.
We're doing the best we can. Whoever designed this, this nice little spot, I like them. They were obviously Canadian, and I am grateful for them. I think I missed that, yeah. I am ashamed. I also need ammo. I really just wanted to use that.
They're not letting up. Watch for more shuttles.
Almost there.
Audio's fine. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for verifying that, because the game is very quiet. There's really no way I can solve that, unfortunately. I'm in a bit of trouble. I forgot about the grenade. Well, that's embarrassing. That's on me. I thought the grenade, or sorry, I didn't think about the grenade. I very easily could have gotten out of the way of that, but. So I'll take a minute and collect some ammo while I deal with these guys, and then I'm going to head back to my perch. Cover? What's that? Oh, crap. Okay.
They're not letting up. Watch for more shuttles.
Almost there.
Oh, crap. I'm going to needlessly switch weapons again. They will be in pistol range by the time I'm done swapping. I thought that was a headshot. And that Centurion's about to make my little sniper perch a lot more difficult to fire from.
Shepard, take that thing down now.
All right. I wonder if that rocket launcher is still around. It is. You know, now would be a really good time for me to learn how grenades work. Cannot believe how many shots that took.
Commander, firewall's down. I'm in. Spirits. Cerberus hacked the trigger mechanism. It's set to
Disarm it.
No time. I have to separate the trigger from the bomb. Now. Cover me.
Okay, I don't know what gun makes that sound, but I really wish I had it. Ah, fair enough. If this doesn't end like Doctor Strangelove, I'm going to be very disappointed. Okay, I thought it was going Doctor Strangelove for a minute.
Lieutenant!
Victory. At any cost.
I'm sure the Primarch will learn a valuable lesson.
Commander, I've got radio chatter coming in from Krogan forces planetside. Sounds like they started sweeping out the remaining Cerberus troops. Hate to be the guy who told the Krogan about that surprise package. Did you get out all right? Sounds like it got ugly down there.
The Turians took a lot of casualties, Joker. The Primarch's son included.
Understood, Commander. Joker out.
I can't count the times I've watched friends risk everything for a cause. To see the Lieutenant die for us, for his platoon, it hits close to home.
I'm getting tired of seeing people die.
The losses are unfortunate, Shepard, but preserving the peace between Turians and Krogan could prevent the deaths of millions.
I know, Edie. But right now, I just don't give a damn about politics.
The motto from the first game.
Good work on Tuchanka, Commander. Stopping that bomb prevented the war between the Turians and the Krogan. We can't afford that kind of division right now.
Joker said the Krogan are recovering the bomb?
They moved in, won't allow Turians to send in recovery crews to help.
Understandable.
The situation is fragile at the moment. With Rex and the Primarch aboard the Normandy, you've got a situation brewing. We don't have a solid alliance between those two yet. Keep the peace, Commander. That's an order.
Yes, sir.
Pack it out.
We couldn't risk another galactic war with the Krogan.
The Genophage wasn't enough? You had to plant a bomb on my planet?
The decision was made hundreds of years ago. So much has changed.
Not enough to tell us about the bomb, coward.
Hey.
I was gonna say, like, given his reaction, I kind of think that's justified.
We can't let the past rip us apart. Working together, we have a chance. Primarch, you had a bomb on Tuchanka. And Rex, in the Turian's place, you would have done the same damn thing.
Shepard.
It's over. His own son died today making this right.
Please, Commander. It's all right.
Yes, fine. Shepard, you made your point. We have stronger enemies to face.
We do.
I understand your reservations before, Commander, but I hope you now understand the secrecy.
Secrets get people killed. You've learned that the hard way.
Doesn't anybody look at each other in this game? There we go.
The hardest lesson I'm ever to learn, Commander.
Sorry, I don't mean to sound nitpicky.
My son, he died with the respect of his men. I wanted to thank you for that. His sacrifice will be recorded in the histories of the 9th Platoon. Something any father would be proud of.
Yes, sir.
I just had been talking about some of the blocking before, but I kind of liked how that closed out. So I'm going to take a quick minute here and catch up. The Turian Blackwatch, a team of exceptionally skilled special ops soldiers. Blackwatch is sent on missions that threaten the safety of Palaven itself. It was pulled from the homeworld by order of Primarch Adrian Victus, who wanted to mobilize this elite force in less hopeless situations across the galaxy. The majority of Blackwatch's operations are classified, although it's generally accepted that they have the highest success rate of any Turian unit in history. There were rumors that Saren Ortarius was part of the Blackwatch before becoming a Spectre, although given his youth when he joined the Turian army, it seems highly unlikely. So I'm going to need a minute to open up my browser. We are going to be done with Mass Effect for tonight, but I am planning on returning to it on Friday. I will maybe say, for the benefit of those who weren't here at the beginning of the stream, I've really been enjoying Mass Effect, but I'm also kind of getting an idea of how much time it potentially takes. So the games that I've been considering as some potential breaks would be Mass Effect, Rebel Galaxy Outlaw, Back to Industries of Titan, and also I've been really wanting to do a indie game that I suspect most of you haven't heard of, called High Strategy Urukon. They reached out to give me a promotional key a very long time ago, and it took a little bit for me to get a handle on it, but it's ready to go. It's actually quite good. So I don't know how you guys feel about giving up one of the Wednesdays or Fridays for a game like that. You can obviously feel free to let me know on Twitter, YouTube, inside the comments here. But the plan is to do Mass Effect 3 for the foreseeable, well, basically until we finish it. But wait, where did it go? But I did promise this for those of you who, sorry to sort of run as soon as you come in and slide your reference just at the end there, Sean. But for those of you who want to check out some of Sean's games, there it is. He's got an itch page. Most of them, possibly all of them, are sort of pay what you want. So there is a donation button there, but you can check it out. They're small little ones. It's very prolific, quite talented. I think he does a really great job with Bitsy and sort of showing you exactly what you can pull off with a very small tool. Something that, I think one of the big lessons for me has been to look at how I react to a tool like Bitsy and to see the limitations, and then in response to look at what Sean does with it and sort of realize that it's not really about the that limitations are a source of creativity. So there are a number that really spoke to me. There's, the interview, and there's, it wasn't a Bitsy one, but there was definitely an MMO, which was one that I thought also lined up rather well with the process of doing a job search. But this is an older one that he's done. One that really charmed me was a little game called Why Do Bees? But I definitely encourage you guys to check it out. It's small stuff. It's very independent, and not everything is necessarily going to connect with you in a way that it did with me. You might find something in there that I think that didn't quite link with me, and maybe some of the things that I referenced weren't necessarily in there. But Sean is one of the people who I've met through the local game dev community. It's a group known as Dirty Rectangles. And given the fact that I'd actually originally went with another group who will remain nameless, I encountered someone who's now rather notorious for being a bit of a scumbag. And now it's kind of publicly known that they're a bit of a scumbag. But definitely my first introduction to the game dev scene in Ottawa was not necessarily that positive because it was the wrong group before. And going in and being able to meet someone like Sean, who's also a very gifted presenter in terms of showing off some of these things at the monthly meetings. Obviously, they've gone virtual now, but a bunch of other people. So people like Eric, who worked on Cuphead, but has a wonderful game we did on here called Spring Falls. Jonah and Derek are the other two organizers, but that won't mean anything if you if you haven't been there. There's a lot of talent in there. I think Sean is a very good representation of a lot of the really interesting stuff that's coming out of Ottawa, and I really like taking the opportunities to be able to share this sort of stuff because not everybody's on my Twitter, not everybody necessarily sees those retweets. They're obviously sort of few and far between, usually when an event is going on, and so I encourage you guys to check that sort of stuff out. Warking, it was a pleasure having you in there. Again, for those of you who want Mass Effect, that's going to be Wednesdays and Fridays for the foreseeable future. I try to start, but again, I give myself an hour start between 7 and 8. I try to start as close to 7 as I can, but I also have a real life and a job, which doesn't always line up with being able to start on time. And then Mondays are dedicated to Paradox strategy games. Normally, it's been something like Age of Wonders Planetfall lately, but we have a number of different games that we play. So we've got a few very good people streaming tonight, but I think I'm going to send the raid over to No Virtue. So No Virtue is a very talented strategy streamer. She also does a lot of Paradox stuff. So currently playing Stellaris. No Virtue's actually also been involved in some of the streamer battles, so the things that Paradox has hosted. Very, very strong at the game. For some, this may be of interest for Mass Effect fans, is an author of science fiction short stories. If you take a look at the profile, you know how if you scroll down, you can get some information about the streamer. There's some links to those, and I encourage you to check it out. So a well-rounded individual who's very good at a strategy game that I enjoy myself. So thank you, everybody, for making this a fun cast. I hope I get a chance to see you on Friday. And I will let the raid countdown go and try and catch up with the rest of the stuff I plan to do today. Anyways, have a good night. We'll see you next time.